All right, come along with me as we arrive in Skagtown in our fancy carriage with the family flag flying. And the first thing I see is a chubby guy rolling down the hill, looking like a human bowling ball. This is Moore, my new farm manager. Fancy title for a guy who just yells at workers and collects taxes in this forgotten dump my father gifted me. Yeah, right, a gift. Let's call it what it is, exile. My old man, Grand Duke Crackscale, decided that his illegitimate son needed mountain air forever. Family legend says our ancestor pierced a fire dragon's scales with a single arrow, almost killed the beast, which is where our name comes from. Pretty heroic, I guess. And now, generations later, the prize of his lineage is me on a rocky hill watching 50 slaves pretend to work. Moore is sweating like a snowman in a sauna. The poor guy only got 2 days' notice that a real lord was coming, and the best he could manage was a half-cleared plot of land with no mansion or decent shed. He just stutters endless excuses, won't even look me in the eye, probably thinks I'll chop his head off for fun, because that's just what nobles do when they're moody. Honestly, I'm not even mad. This place is perfect. Green hills, dense forests, a big clean river and perfect soil. Everyone thinks I'm ruined, but they're the ones who got fooled. I didn't come to play king, I came to farm. Now pay attention, because right then, the most dramatic notification pops up. Game loaded. Neural link established. Consciousness awake. Would you like to create your own destiny? This is about to get crazy. Alright, here's my tragic backstory. In my past life, I was a student who died gaming a mobile game called Noah's Ark instead of studying. Yes, I died from playing too much. No, I don't want to talk about it. And yes, I deserve every single judgmental look you're giving me right now. Then I woke up as a noble baby in a medieval fantasy world, which would be cool if everything didn't smell awful and nobles weren't total parasites. In my own family, the powerful Crackscale are just fancy leeches with one cool ancestor. The mobile game actually followed me to this new world. 10 years to load. 10 years. In village internet cafes with better connection speeds. As soon as it finally booted up, I knew I had to flee the estate. War is coming. Nobility is rotten to the core, and I refused to go down with them. I demanded my inheritance, and I bailed to the edge of the world. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I actually chose this exile myself. The game starts and asks for my name. Roman creates his destiny profile, what they call players. Immediately discover the absolute worst joke. Only unlocked mode is Breath of Life, basically a farming and mining simulator. Gacha system to summon cool warriors called apostles is locked. Epic battles, locked. Strategy mode, locked. Everything fun. Totally locked. Get 100 daily crystals, but summoning an apostle costs 160. No starter bonuses, just a hoe and good luck. Named my farm Origin because I'm a sentimental guy. And the map aligns perfectly with my actual territory. Pixelated version of the hills, river and forest right in front of me. Tiny pixel character standing right there. That's me, the exiled lord with a farming simulator stuck in his head. Meanwhile, poor Moore keeps apologizing, but I haven't heard a thing because I'm staring into space, reading game menus, on the verge of a total breakdown. Thinks my silence means I'm planning his execution. Literally imagines I'll order him stripped naked and thrown into the pig pen. I don't even have pigs yet. When I finally pay attention, he promises a mansion in 15 days. Way too slow. 10 days is still too slow. I need a roof today. So I do what any sensible noble would do. I take off my coat, roll up my sleeves, and grab a log that 4 slaves couldn't carry. I shoulder it and start building. Moore almost faints. My lord, you can't do manual labor. Seems as if I've committed a war crime. And he whimpers in terror, asking if I'll feed him to the pigs. Look him dead in the eye and say, depends on how I sleep tonight. His face wrinkles up like a sad eggplant, but he grabs the wood and starts helping, probably for the first time in his cozy life. And floating in my vision, I gain construction experience. Building level 1. 1 out of 100, everything else at 0. Time to grind skills. At least this time, dying from overwork fits my style, don't you think? That's how this system works. Do real life stuff, gain experience. You're in for a wild ride. Jump into a world where building, farming, and logging actually grant you life-saving experience. Every time you level up, you get crystals. Exactly 500 for hitting level 2. Huge, since summoning costs 160. But daily logins only grant 100. Sadly, I worked all day for a tiny 10 experience. At this rate, leveling up will take forever. But the best part, each experience point literally beams advanced construction knowledge right into my brain. By the end of the day, I was building like a professional with months of hands-on practice. One man doing the work of 10. The slaves were completely baffled about where they stood in the hierarchy. Somehow I managed to build 5 wooden cabins before sunset. Are they ugly, you ask? Log walls, crooked thatched roofs. They might block the wind, but if it rains, we are getting soaked in bed. Any other noble would rather sleep in a ditch, but I built these myself, and they are honestly perfect. Now pay attention here because we are about to meet my squad. My family gave me a starter pack before leaving. A butler, 2 secretaries, a chef, 3 kitchen assistants, and 5 slaves, 5 maids, horses, and basic provisions. 20 people total. For an ordinary noble, this would be incredibly generous. Son of a Grand Duke, this is basically just a sad consolation prize. Butler is Scythe, nearly 40, stiff as a board and terrifyingly neat. My etiquette tutor and the only one who refused to carry logs today, stood there watching us sweat, then had the absolute nerve to say,
"My lord, manual labor is beneath you."
Completely violates noble protocol. I told him if protocol could magically build a mansion, I would gladly use it. He is just that polite, honorable type who is too nice to talk back. Amazing management skills, which is exactly why I brought him along. No one else wanted the bitter old man, but their loss. Next we have my 2 knights, Aaron and Green. They are not officially knighted yet, but they are great warriors. Aaron is the reliable one, helping unload carriages without being asked. Green, on the other hand, reacted to my beautiful handmade cabins, as if I had suggested we eat rocks for dinner. Moore, desperately trying to avoid getting executed, offered to let us stay in the town of Skag instead. Hard pass, I said. Medieval towns are literally open sewers, and dogs would run away. Green instantly spoke up, saying he wouldn't mind going. I stared and told him to leave. The maniac actually saluted and agreed, looking like he was marching toward a glorious death. He ordered Moore to lead. Poor guy almost had a stroke. You and I both saw that hilarious betrayal coming. Moore stood there shaking and sweating, thinking it was a loyalty test where 500 assassins would jump out, so I kicked Green before he could take a step. Turned around with puppy eyes, looking like he was complaining about having to suffer out here with me. Green grew up with me, was raised by my family, and is fiercely loyal to the core. Odds of him betraying me are lower than pulling a 6-star on a single summon. I totally corrupted him. Bad influence ruined him, so this is technically my fault. I sent Moore away, telling him to return tomorrow for orders. He left completely baffled, unable to tell if his new lord was a genius or a madman. An honest question, really. The slaves also went to bed in complete disbelief. Bet someone tonight in the barracks will claim they carried logs with the new lord, and absolutely nobody will believe them. Once everyone dispersed, my chef made a simple but edible dinner, and we settled into our makeshift rooms. Took one cabin, the knights squeezed into another, and everyone else crammed wherever they fit. On my wooden bed, spring breeze blew right through the wall cracks. Spending the night, exploring the game's menu interface. Who needs sleep when there are menus to explore? Welcome to day 2 in paradise. My body woke up automatically at dawn, thanks to the strict family rule of training before the sun rises. 15 years of that routine turns your internal clock into a tyrant that does not care about your late-night gaming. Aaron and Green were already outside, swinging their massive mountain copper alloy swords and cutting through the air. They did not spar, however, since we do not have anyone here to repair damaged weapons. At home, we had a full repair crew. Here it is just me and 5 ugly cabins, so I skipped training. Instead, I pulled weeds for 1 experience point. Stick with me, because we just discovered this game has 9 unique life skills: construction, farming, gathering, livestock, hunting, cooking, medicine, crafting, and blacksmithing. I can't level them all at once, so priorities. Stick with me as we witness farming. That's a total crime. Barely harvest anything because their only technique is throwing seeds on the ground and praying. I was pulling weeds and cursing under my breath so intensely that every passing servant dodged me, thinking I wanted to murder someone. And I did, just not them. It was bad farming I wanted to kill. Right on time, Moore arrived with yesterday's slaves. Poor things, they were shivering from the cold. The mornings are practically still winter, and they're wearing nothing but old rags. I looked at them, then Moore, and made a choice that shocked this medieval society. Ordered my chef Bob to make oatmeal, 50 servings. Bob looked horrified. Lord, it won't fit in one pot, and use multiple pots. Why do I even have to explain this? And Scythe appeared like a disapproving ghost. My lord, we lack the grain for such generosity. Stared at Moore, who immediately offered to send over all the food reserves from Skagtown. Solved. Looked like he wanted to complain to the universe itself. This violates every rule, he said, outraged. Now watch what happens next. I just patted his shoulder and said, I am the rule. Stared at the mud stain on his spotless clothes like I'd smeared actual garbage on him. Stormed off, grumbling about using noble tableware for slave oatmeal. Since we lacked 50 regular plates and once used, those plates were considered permanently ruined by high society standards. Scythe is probably calculating if working for me will end up costing him money out of pocket. Honestly, probably. Pulled Moore aside and gave him 3 tasks. First, send me every record from Skagtown. Everything goes straight to Scythe right away. Easy, Swan. Second, take my scribes and within 3 days complete a full census of every single person and their job in Skagtown. Moore went silent, breaking out in a suspicious cold sweat. This chubby swindler had never actually counted the population. His job had always been to pocket 50% of Skagtown's revenue and steal as he pleased. He sent fixed taxes to the Duke and kept the rest. Why would he want real numbers ruining his scams? Your numbers don't match mine, I smiled. You will be eating black bread in the pig pen. Moore tried to smile, but his expression looked more like someone who had just stepped on a sharp nail. Probably guessed it, there isn't even bread in there. Big guy mount his horse and gallop off like his life depended on it, because it did. Tons of seeds with me when I left home. Unlike other nobles who think soil is just dirt, I had already farmed in secret. Not well, but I know how to use a hoe. First things first, I sent the slaves to construct a bathroom and a kitchen. I won't let them use my property as a public toilet. We need some class. Besides, the slaves already adore me. Gave them hot oatmeal this morning, and they reacted like I was handing out bars of pure gold. In their minds, their rating says 1 extra bite makes you a merciful lord, 2 bites make you great, and a whole bowl turns you into a legendary leader fallen from heaven. I am basically their god now. Only cost me some oats, and I grabbed my hoe and began farming alone. Just me against the land all morning. No breaks. Farming experience +1. 18-year-old body is built like a tank, so strength is not an issue. Those experience points gave me knowledge on soil preparation and how to create proper drainage furrows, actual scientific techniques to break up soil clumps that nobody in this medieval dump ever uses to cultivate. These people just throw seeds and hope for the best. The yield is pathetic, under 100 pounds per acre. It hurts to watch, which are spring vegetables a lot like radishes, sowing in spring, harvesting in summer, step by step. Lunchtime, Green finally spoke up. When are we going to Skagtown to act like lords? One isn't going anywhere. What's the rush? Then Aaron, my silent and stoic knight, couldn't hold back anymore. So when both of them were trained for war, they expected glory and conquest in this valley, but in the end, we're just watching them watch me farm. All right, you and I are about to watch a fallen noble rebuild his entire life from absolute scratch. And this was just the start of something much bigger. Green just stared blankly, asking if that meant more harvesting. Smirked at him. Aaron could handle it. What, are you not good enough? Green stared back in utter disbelief, shocked that I was treating farming like some kind of high-stakes competitive sport. Aaron's mouth twitched slightly before his face turned back to stone. Build our power in silence, then shock the world. That is the plan. Right after lunch, Moore brought in the Skagtown records, dumped the whole stack on Scythe to keep him busy, and off my back about etiquette. Days passed. 5 acres plowed and planted with crops. Body was screaming in agony by the time night fell. Honestly, even with my enhanced physique, swinging a hoe for 12 hours straight completely wrecks your back. Young body, fast recovery, and level 1 farming at 59 out of 100. Then Moore showed up, looking like a dead man walking. I demanded a verbal report of the census. My lord, Skagtown has a population of roughly 1,800 to 1,900 people. I smiled. Really? Because you have only been paying taxes for about 700. Moore turned instantly pale. His chubby body was shaking like jelly in an earthquake. Here is the truth. His late father never once counted the actual population. Moore inherited the job and also never counted them, keeping taxes flat while the population tripled. For decades, nobody from the Crackscale family bothered to double-check. 80-year-old father probably forgets his own breakfast and has completely forgotten this place exists. On paper, it is massive tax fraud, the kind that gets heads chopped off. But honestly, I do not care. Even if Moore pocketed the extra tax money for years, with productivity this low, how much could he actually steal? Maybe enough for some basic armor. Just a small-time scammer selling lemonade in the middle of a desert. He is not worth punishing, and I seriously need workers, so I ignored it. Moore nearly melted from absolute relief. Why is there a gap of 100 people? I demanded. I want exact numbers. Unborn babies if you have to. Moore instantly tensed up again, terrified and hesitant. Under my patient stare, he slowly began to explain why. Moore filled me in on the rest of Skagtown's history. Turns out it started as a sanctuary for runaway slaves and outcasts. A medieval village built entirely out of people straight off of wanted posters. Here is the crazy part: my father invaded with 3 knights, planted his flag, left a tax collector and left. But the issue: more outlaws arrived, though most are harmless farmers, others are brutal criminals, bandits, and military deserters, along with hunters armed with homemade weapons. Moore's 30 guards in leather armor can handle civilians, but against those Highlanders, do not poke the bear is their official policy. Moore actively warned me to stay far away from them. I filed that away under interesting. Then I dismissed them so I could get back to my farming. The demographics here were actually fascinating. A textbook pyramid. 0 elderly, since nobody makes it past 40, plenty of adults and tons of kids, meaning this place has enough safety and food to sustain families. This population quietly boomed for decades, while the Crackscale family completely forgot this territory even existed. Humans are honestly like weeds. Give them food and basic security, and they will multiply rapidly. More days of hard labor, I cleared 10 acres, unlocking level 2 farming. Direct knowledge flooded my mind. Composting methods, seed selection, deep plowing, and even the schematics to build an advanced moldboard plow. Agricultural tech centuries ahead of this current era. My head spun so hard I had to sit down. Achievement unlocked. First bucket of dirt earned me 500 crystals. Combined with daily bonuses, I hit 1,200. 160 per summon. That meant 7 total attempts. Wait 4 days for a 10 pull, but there is no pity system or rate up banners here. Just a grey pool with 2,000 floating stars. You know what? I'm pulling right now and staring at dirt all week. I deserve this. First roll. The pool vibrates. Blue light explodes, and a 3-star card appears. Image clears up, and I almost fall backwards. It is green. My sarcastic knight is staring back at me from a gacha card. Tilted head, annoying smirk, 3-star rarity, and assassin class. His attributes are completely mediocre, barely hitting a couple of positive D ranks and a bunch of E ranks. His skills are pure dodge and speed. Makes sense, since he never liked fighting head-on anyway, not just fall from heaven. Stay with me to see what madness happens next. Alright, stick with me here, because this gacha logic actually makes sense. Look, 2 purple lights flashing right now. 4 stars, and it is Aaron, standing there in full armor, looking like a total cavalry recruitment poster. 4-star tank with incredible overall stats, packed with skills focusing entirely on shields and defense, plus a talent for resisting status effect. Classic Aaron. Comparing their cards, he is clearly way stronger. 3 D ranks and 2 E ranks compared to green. Always tied in sparring, meaning Aaron was holding back this whole time. What a low-key show-off. Third pull. White light. 2 stars. Some random guy in animal pelts with a rugged face, holding a longbow hunter style. This is Dota, sporting flat E rank stats and a sharp eyesight talent, plus a tracking skill, basically a walking medieval trail cam. Compared to 2 trained knights, his stats should be garbage. Not everyone grows up on noble protein shakes and daily combat training since they were kids. But wait, if these apostles are real people near me, where are they? I literally asked where this Dota guy was. I summoned a guy named Dota, and it is not like he is standing here waving at me. Since I could not figure it out, I burned my last 4 pulls. 4th pull Scythe, my uptight butler. 1 star, 5th pull Bob, my chef. 6th, someone named Filma. Named Borrow, just straight single-star trash with flat E-rank stats across the board. Pay attention here, my luck gave me 3 freebies, then slammed the door. You and I know that classic gacha pain. Out of 7 apostles, 4 already work for me. I wasted valuable resources recruiting people I already had on on my payroll, full price for the shoes you are already wearing. The other 3 Dota, Thelma and Borrow, I do not even know them. They are out there being my apostles without even knowing it. Opened up the management menu and immediately wanted to cry. Being apostles requires experience books made of rare materials, and leveling up their skills is exactly the same nightmare. Forging exclusive weapons, materials, class changes, completely impossible requirements for me. The only thing that rises for free is the relationship meter. And my boys, Aaron and Green, are already at 70 or 80% because we grew up together. Rangers barely have 10%. Everything costs magical resources, mithril, mountain copper, and magic stones. I know what they are. Nobles use them to upgrade their knight's gear. Inherited a few, but my total fortune is just 20 gold coins and a handful of shiny rocks. Great, super great. Let me explain how power works here, because it matters. Knights are transcendents, ranked from 1 to 9. Last famous rank 9 was the Conqueror Emperor over 100 years ago, who built a fleet to cross a deadly ocean seeking a mythical convergence point, but he fell ill, got attacked by sea monsters, and never returned. I know what you are thinking. Individual power is totally overrated. Sure, Aaron, Green, and I, 3 rank 1 transcendents, could theoretically slaughter all 2,000 people in Skagtown. Would only stop from sheer exhaustion. 2,000 farmers against 3 knights is like 2,000 sheep facing tigers. But swap those sheep for 50 wolves, 30 wolves, that will not run away. Suddenly, those tigers are in deep trouble against a real army, and even a rank 9 divine warrior would have to sit down and negotiate. Math does not lie. It is not buffing just one person. It is turning sheep into wolves. Humans in this fantasy world have some absolutely insane physical potential. No magic barriers between commoners and transcendents. Just eat well, train hard, do not break yourself, and boom, rank 1. A heavyweight champion from my old world would qualify as a transcendent here. Punching power D- rank. My actual plan is not leveling up individual apostles. It is building an entire army of wolves. Got it. Anyway, on the 7th day, I decided to visit Skagtown. When I announced it, Green's eyes literally lit up. He had spent a week watching me fuss over my farmland and was desperate to do literally anything else. Ran to his room to gear up, only to find Aaron outside in full mithril reinforced armor, glowing like a walking chandelier, holding his helmet and sword. A knight must always be ready. Aaron said calmly, "Liar. You just put that on." Green screamed at him. We rode out at noon. Me, 2 knights, and Scythe on tall horses, hooves thundering on the road like war drums. Everyone had gathered in the plaza. Over 1,000 faces stared back at me, tired, frightened, with slouched shoulders and darting eyes, not completely broken. Still a tiny spark left. Decades without a noble breathing down their necks left them this way. Not happy, but fearful rather than indifferent. You and I could read their minds perfectly right now. Please. Just leave things as they are. We will pay 50% taxes. Just don't make it worse and leave, I beg of you. Honestly, if I announced nothing was changing, they would build me an altar. If I pushed harder, they would accept it without hesitation. Because predictable cruelty feels safer than some unknown lord who builds cabins and pulls weeds at the crack of dawn. They have no idea what is coming. Stick with me to see how I put on my noble tyrant mask, entered the plaza on my massive warhorse with the sun at my back. My shadowed face looked dramatic, unleashing absolute chaos. I'm Roman Crax Gale, your lord and ruler. Everything here belongs to me, and even the birds flying over your heads are mine. And that squirrel you are looking at is mine. And by the way, all of you have been breaking the law for decades, hunting in my mountains, fishing in my rivers, and cutting down my trees, all of this without my permission. Punishment, every single one of you owes me a gold coin. Gold coin. These people have barely seen copper in their lives. It felt like I was asking for their kidneys. In 2 seconds, the crowd went from absolute silence to crying, begging, and crawling in sheer panic. One guy tried to attack me. Huge mistake. Ching. Green and Green unsheathed their massive swords in perfect unison. Seen from below, that must have been a truly terrifying scene. 2 armored giants on war horses, swords pointing to the sky, and completely expressionless faces. They looked like living battle statues. But look closely, because I am actually not crazy. Before leaving, I secured a 3-year tax exemption from my father without accounting to anyone. I can push these villagers hard. I will reorganize everything without any interference from above. And that gold coin trick. Oldest negotiation tactic in the book. First, you demand the impossible. Then you offer a reasonable choice. 2 options, I announced. Pay the fine or obey my commands. Wow, what a tough choice. That was when I dropped the second bomb, and every child between the ages of 5 and 15 to my estate. After that gold coin threat, this barely hurt. They were too shocked to even process it. Then I summoned the merchants to the front. Skagtown has a tiny trading economy. The river connects them to the outside, though the Silver Dragon Canyon route frightens most with its rapids and sharp rocks. Merchants who actually dared to visit had never paid any trade taxes before. Instantly, a stylish young merchant with tanned skin stepped forward to face me. My lord, you are right. We are all thieves stealing from your mountain. Why hunt down petty pickpockets when the real bandits are in the hills? Bold move, kid. His name was Maury Pereira, son of a highly influential merchant named Selin, probably just another bastard. Wealthy scatter them like confetti. I made a mental note of him as a useful asset for later. I will deal with all of them, I replied coldly. Both petty thieves and the dangerous bandits. No one uses my land for free. Trust me on this bombshell. Starting today, farming stops completely. Anyone who touches a plow without my authorization dies. Tomorrow everything restarts under my brand new control system. Will follow my orders without question. Look, your farming methods are garbage. Total, complete disgrace. They waste fertile soil using prehistoric techniques. Letting them do it their way while I plan things would only ruin the land. Better to hit the reset button hard. Immediately I puffed out my chest, dropped my voice to a deep war drum pitch, and roared my decree. I claim all lands and resources. Your old life is over. I will personally redistribute everything. You no longer have the freedom to do as you please. You will obey. Then I pulled the reins and rode away without looking back, achieving an absolutely perfect, dramatic exit. Moore was drenched in sweat. I could tell he was thinking, oh right, this is the exact kind of crazy noble I expected. Terrifying, irrational, and completely unhinged. But even Moore had never seen a ruler who did not just exploit his people. He had never known anyone willing to tear down a whole garden just to replant it from scratch. Can Skagtown ever go back to the way it was? And that is the point. On the way back, Green removed his helmet thoughtfully. I thought you would feed them oats and play the nice kid forever. Exploitation. He learned that word from me. He is so proud of it that he uses it every chance he gets. And he added, good thing you acted like an absolute tyrant. Without exploiting peasants, there is no money for white bread, and without my white bread, goodbye muscular physique. Talk about priorities, I replied. What if you actually could not eat any more white bread? Green's face completely froze. Then Aaron spun around to look. They have known me since I was a child. They know today starts something massive 16 years in the making. You and I are going to enjoy this wild ride. We'll love how these loyal knights basically tell him he is the boss. So do whatever crazy thing he wants. Sure, it sounds informal, but it is actually the most unconditional vow of loyalty you will ever get from this clueless guy. He and Aaron chose to follow me for one simple reason. They want to be part of something truly legendary. Hearing that actually made me smile. Then Scythe ruined the moment by warning that taking 300 kids from their families would cause massive trouble. He had done the math. Kids between 5 and 15 make up a huge chunk of the population, and the older ones are basically free labor in the fields and watch their little siblings come away, and every single family falls apart. Parents would stop working to babysit, leading to totally ruined crops. Honestly, those were incredibly valid concerns, but I won't reveal the entire plan just yet. Basically, I need to mold these kids early and get them used to my estate. My goal is to build deep loyalty and raise a generation with a brand new mindset, even if it destroys their old way of life. I only looked at Scythe and told him their subsistence farming is a total joke. Centralized resources under my direct control. Zero waste. Scythe's face was a total picture of shock. Thought I had officially lost my mind as I declared I would shrink the farming land, adapt or starve to death. Twisted in pure horror. But here is where you and I see the math that literally nobody in this medieval world understands. One wheat seed yields only 4. A 1-to-4 ratio. That is why families need 60 acres just to survive. They just throw seeds randomly, pray for good weather, and accept when wind cuts harvests in half or rain ruins it completely. Any modern merchant saw these pathetic profit margins, they would hang themselves on the spot. 300% profits spark crime, but negative returns lead to suicide. Real target is a 1-to-20 yield. 1 seed sown, 20 harvested. 1 to 8 cuts the land in half. 1 to 16 I only need a quarter. We'll use seed selection, composting, and deep plowing. Thanks to the data, my level 2 planting skill downloaded right into my brain. Hitting 1 to 20 is actually a conservative estimate. Once I push these crops to their genetic limits, the results will speak for themselves. Fewer farmed acres means freeing up massive manpower for other crucial projects like construction, mining, and building basic infrastructure. The game system says I have a lot of work to do, which is an understatement. This town barely has 80 oxen to plow. Every single beast used to belong to Moore and his greedy little circle, but I have officially confiscated them all. 80 oxen for 2,000 people is pathetic. Could never plow in time, so they just threw seeds wherever they could. They were literally farming on pure hope and good vibes. I'm sick of it. Time to cut the dead weight. Now, I know what you are thinking, but we are abandoning those useless fields to focus entirely on smaller, optimized plots. Before leaving, I secured a 3-year tax exemption from my father. 3 whole years where absolutely nobody will ask me questions. The entire strategy is extremely simple. Today, I terrify them into absolute obedience. Tomorrow, I revolutionize their agriculture and free up enough labor to build a true, powerful civilization. No time for gentle reforms, town hall meetings, or slowly winning hearts. That soft method would take decades. War is approaching. The world is changing, and I refuse to let the storm catch me planting seeds the old-fashioned way. Fast, brutal, and efficient. Not instead of trying to untie it. Somewhere behind me, Moore is still sweating, wondering if Skag will ever go back to how it was. Won't, but what comes next will be so much better. Assuming I do not totally mess up the crop math and accidentally starve everyone. Not think about that. Once I got back to the estate, I remembered that the system let me assign code names to my apostles. So I looked at Green and Aaron and asked if they wanted nicknames. Green's eyes lit up, thinking I was naming them elite knights. In this world, only legendary level 5 warriors with epic achievements get official titles. Like the Duke who pierced a dragon's scales to win his name is a massive deal. Green puffed up like a proud peacock, claiming that becoming a titled knight would be easy, though he did admit there was a tiny gap left to reach that level. He held up his fingers, showing a gap of barely a centimeter. I corrected him, explaining it was just a simple alias. His face instantly deflated, and he stupidly suggested calling himself Green. I just stared at him, stared back in complete clueless confusion. I told him to get out. He walked away, scratching his head, utterly unable to comprehend why I would waste my time asking such a useless question. After that total disaster, I did not even bother asking Aaron. Opened the Apostle management screen and just typed the names myself. And that is where you and I leave it today, because the speech I gave in Skag has unleashed an absolute storm of chaos. Let's dive in and watch these desperate peasants run for their lives like shipwrecked survivors. Lord, must all 5 of my children go? Will you enslave us? Why can we not plant today during sowing season? What will he eat without crops? Poor Moore turned red with rage and snapped at them to shut up, asking if they thought he could change the Lord's mind. Nobody to ennoble. Against him, I would not just cancel his orders right now. I would have him execute every single one of you to never deal with you filthy people again. Pushed through the crowd and stormed off. An absolute legend at controlling his emotions clearly. The farmers just stared at each other in sheer terror. Technically, I broke the law by taking all their land. Their leases give them farming rights. The king could punish me, but he is hundreds of miles away and has no idea this place even exists. My own father barely remembers this territory. So tell me, who is going to stop me? They spent the whole afternoon debating my plans. Most realized I would not enslave them, since I need them farming to feed us. The consensus was that this was just a power play, and if they obeyed well enough, would eventually throw them some crumbs. They are not entirely wrong, but they are not ready for those crumbs. Now pay attention, because things get crazy here. The tanned young merchant, Maury Pereira, returned to his docked ship. Turns out he is not here for trade at all. That is just a cover. Inside the cabin, a mysterious woman in a black hooded robe waited, revealing only her bright red lips and a pale chin. Only mysterious and dramatic. Her name was Shasta, and she was not happy. "And her?" she asked. "No," Maury said, pulling out a glowing purple crystal. "Intel might be wrong. Everyone is gossiping about the new lord. Not find out anything else." "Useless," she snapped. Maury just sighed and summarized my entire big speech for her. When he mentioned sending all the village kids to my private estate, Shasta had a completely unexpected reaction. He knew nobles had disgusting secrets but usually hid them. This guy does it openly with young boys and girls. How sickening. Maury blinked in shock, asking if she thought he was a monster. What else would a man do with hundreds of kids? So a random witch on a boat thinks I am some medieval creep. Fantastic. What a stellar start for my reputation. There, Maury defended me slightly, pointing out that if I had those dark tastes, I wouldn't have waited 7 days farming turnips first. Solid logic. Thanks, Maury, for defending my innocence based entirely on my passion for growing root vegetables. Maury's real theory was far more interesting: building an army, training young kids to be future knights. Still, he couldn't grasp why I would seize all the local fields. Any basin could support an operation of that size. Staring at the mountains surrounding Skagtown, he wondered if this lunatic of a lord would try to carve a road through solid rock. Man, you have absolutely no idea what this crazy lord is planning. Honestly, nobody in this entire story knows, not even my staff. The only ones who know are me and the pixel farmer living rent-free in my head. Pretty wild, right? While I slept peacefully after a long day of revolutionary farming, someone was creeping around my town. No idea yet, and what I discovered later. A young merchant is actually harboring a secret witch right on his ship. Her name is Shasta, and she wears a black robe just like every other mysterious fantasy woman ever. Taking down another witch named Gwyneth, who apparently fled deep into the mountains surrounding Skagtown. That is the situation. The church actively hunts witches here and burns them alive, going full medieval on them. Maury's family secretly smuggles witches. It is a highly illegal side hustle that would get his entire bloodline executed if caught. Shasta snuck aboard his merchant ship because rumors claimed a young rogue witch was hiding out in this area. The real issue is that Maury spent 3 full days searching with a tracking crystal and found absolutely nothing. He believes the poor girl fled deep into the mountains after someone nearly exposed her magical powers. Then they started bickering like a married couple. Shasta insisted on going to look for her herself. Maury refused since her capture would doom him useless, while he called her incredibly reckless. Conjured a thick wall of fog before vanishing. Frustrated, Maury kicked a nearby rock and immediately regretted his life choices. That night, Shasta turned this sleepy little village into a total horror movie. Turning into pure smoke, she slipped into houses to force sleeping villagers to answer her questions. Cabin to cabin, whispering for the witch, acting like the creepiest pollster you and I have ever seen. Come along with me as this mystery gets crazy, because Shasta corners an old farmer and turns his dream into absolute panic. She is not my daughter. She is an evil witch. Please, church lords, do not burn us. That told Shasta everything. This man is Gwyneth's father, and he fears the church so much that even in his worst nightmares, condemns his own daughter. Genuinely did not know where she went. Dead end. Shasta almost left, but then noticed the woman nearby. Gwyneth's mother, with 4 other children crammed in the tiny room, aged between 2 and 10. The mother was faking sleep. Got up to wake her husband, but failed. Shasta's magic put him in a deep slumber. Do not bother, he won't wake up, Shasta's voice whispered right behind her. Spinning around, she saw a smoke cloud with glowing red eyes watching her, begging her not to hurt her children. Smoke drifted closer, whispering, "Where is Gwyneth?" And right at that exact moment, the scene cuts. An awake farmer spotted this smoke monster drifting between the houses and almost died of sheer terror, thinking it was a soul-eating demon. So to recap, I am trying to build an agricultural utopia. There is an actual witch hunt in my backyard that I knew nothing about. Smoke Witch is terrorizing my sleeping citizens. Pay attention here, because a girl is lost in my mountains. The church wants her dead, and a merchant is breaking down. Meanwhile, I was sleeping peacefully, dreaming about crop rotation. Honestly, being a feudal lord is just fantastic. Talk about missing out on the fun. I was having a lovely morning admiring my perfectly plowed fields. Those rows were so straight, they would make a geometry teacher cry, until Moore came galloping and screaming like he was being skinned alive. My lord, demons in Skagtown last night. I just sighed. Can a man not enjoy his own land in peace? Hearing the details, a smoke creature drifting through houses. While everyone slept, I called green and Aaron to quickly brainstorm a plan. Took us 30 seconds to figure it out. No ordinary trick could keep that up for so long. Only a witch could pull off something that creepy for such a long time. Now let me explain the chaos between witches and the church in this world. Power here is a triangle of kings, nobles, and the church. The church worships multiple gods and commands massive military power, including holy knights, witch hunters, and terrifying inquisitors. Plus, they hit everyone with a 10% tax called the tithe. I know what you're thinking, divine tax collectors, right? Here, 3 grand dukes told the church and their precious tithes to go to hell. If the church army ever marches out of their sacred lands, the 3 dukes will instantly unite to crush them. The king technically pays that tithe, controlling 40% of the army do not. The church is powerless, and Skagtown has absolutely zero church presence. No chapels, no priests, no tax collectors. If a church existed here, I would deal with it very quietly. The mountains are high, the emperor is far away, so who would ever know? Now, let's talk about witches awakening magic out of nowhere. The church, these witches and wizards are walking disasters, filthy trash that must be purged. Centuries, their hunter knights have burned every witch they find, not just her. Their entire family gets purified too, because they claim that corrupt blood taints all relatives. When I was 10, I watched the church burn a witch alive in crack-scale territory. Father hated paying taxes, yet he let them execute her on his own land. I went to watch out of pure curiosity, saw the fire and black smoke rising like a demon's twisted smile. Helpless woman tied to the stake, her neck strained, and her face completely blackened with soot, her screams drowned out by the crackle of burning wood. Everything turned to ash. Something broke inside my 10-year-old self that day. Never forgot it. Anyway, back to breakfast. He's not a demon, I told everyone around the table. Just a passing witch. Moore sat down. Finally, I do not have fancy table manners, while Green and Aaron were already stuffing their faces. Being his usual dramatic self, preferred to stand right beside me eating leftovers like a second-class citizen by his own choice. But he asked him to do that. He just chooses to suffer. Moore then asked carefully, should we report her to the church? My lord, they pay 10 gold coins for a witch. That buys 20 oxen. Bet you can already see the gold signs in his eyes. The man would sell his grandmother for 20 cows. I stared and asked, why would I do that? He is just passing through. Moore's internal monologue was practically glowing on his face. Through the most remote corner of the entire kingdom. No one passes through here going anywhere. But aloud, he said, yes, you are absolutely right, my lord. What a clever pig. Stick around to find out if this unleashed total panic. Right, you and I are jumping right back in as Moore reveals only 2 people saw that smoke monster, and he already silenced them. Forget about it then, I said. That witch was clearly hunting for someone in Skag Village. Not my problem. Do not have a purple crystal to detect witches. I have 0 time, and frankly I do not care. As long as she does not burn my fields or scare my future workers, she can float around all she wants. Finished my breakfast and headed out to Skag with my whole crew, Green, Aaron, Scythe, and the rest. The mysterious mist lady was going to delay my plans. I arrived and the villagers were already waiting, looking like whipped puppies. Good. My tyrant act from yesterday worked like a charm. They were submissive, obedient, and completely terrified. Exactly what I needed. No speeches today, it is time to work. First order of business, spring wheat. They always grow that here, so I will keep the tradition. I'm changing everything else. The old garbage ways are over. 15 to 20 pounds per acre. The minimum is 30. Spring wheat needs tons of seeds or the harvest is pathetic. In my old world, they planted 50 pounds and got 1,000 per acre. Obviously, we will not hit those numbers here, but we will do way better than these simple medieval amateurs. Now pay attention, because step 1 is seed selection, using salt water to make the bad ones float. The catch is salt here is a luxury. These people barely have enough to season food, let alone fill a brine pool. So I improvised with muddy water, using the same density principle. You mix in clay until the bad seeds float. Downside is someone has to constantly stir it. I prepped a barrel, calibrated the mix, and put 2 farmers on shift. Moore crept up to ask why I had them stirring mud soup. Do not ask. You do not deserve to know. You are all just farming tools, and tools do not need to understand why they are being used. Rule. Yes, I am not giving seed-floating lectures to medieval peasants who think thunder is God sneezing. First, I show them results. And watch out for this, because the farming situation here almost melted my brain entirely. The cultivated area last year exceeded 10,000 acres. Rose, but looking closer, I almost had a stroke. Turns out most of it was scattered plots divided by forests, swamps, hills, and grasslands. Half of it was not even properly plowed. They just threw seeds on the ground and called that farming. Calling that farmland is an absolute insult. They were just weed patches with delusions of agriculture. And believe me, it gets worse. Since the soil loses nutrients after one season, they rotate endlessly. From a patch, abandon it for years, then return when nature recovers. I estimate the total land they used is around 30 or 40,000 acres. This is why they built satellite villages. Massive that walking to the fields takes half a day. My plan is condensing everything into 2,000 fertile acres. Rectangle of 1.3 kilometers by 1 kilometer. 1 acre per person, and we are good to go. But to make 2,000 acres yield what 10,000 could not, I need fertilizer. Lots of it. So I gave the ultimate feudal order. Everyone go collect manure. Everything you can find. Human, animal, rotten straw, river mud, or anything that decays. Pile it all up, because we are making compost. Natural fermentation takes 2 weeks. No planting until it is ready. We are looking at 20 to 30 days of preparation. The entire morning vanished just organizing this. Then I called Moore over to drop the real bombshell on him. Find 80 women to cook. Everyone, including the slaves, will get a daily lunch. Half a pound of dry rations, 3 thick slices of bread, oatmeal with veggie soup, and plenty of clean boiled water. This will be my lunch too. Nobody steals a single crumb. Moore's face flashed through 17 emotions in 2 seconds. His brain was short-circuiting. Where would the food come from? And would I really eat the same as the peasants? What will I eat? Are you planning a revolution? I wanted to argue, but my cold glare silenced him completely. Here is the dirty secret. The town does not lack food. Moore has been selling surplus grain to line his own pockets. Where do you think those 80 oxen came from? Many diverted harvests. I know it, and he knows that I know. Neither of us mentions it. His past theft is forgiven, but his juicy private reserve is now the village emergency fund. It is time to cut expenses, voluntarily or not. I have already done the math. 1,200 able adults, excluding kids and elders, who will all eat together at noon, no exceptions. And that is where we leave things today, as families share a meal, while the cooks watch over the little ones. Get ready, because you and I are about to watch this cold lord totally revolutionize Skagtown version 2.0. In commune nobody ever asked for, but everyone is getting. Led 300 kids to Origin Estate like a shepherd guiding a highly confused flock. They are my ultimate long-term investment. They will study and work on the estate. And if they misbehave, our educational philosophy is incredibly simple. Get beaten until you obey. I am not cruel, just highly efficient. Now let us talk about my scribes, German and Hans, educated city men I hired with massive salaries. 1.2 gold coins a year, 50% above market value, with 3 years upfront on 10-year contract. Some context, a knight with 1,000 acres only makes 10 to 20 gold coins yearly before expenses, barely maintaining their gear. These scribes got an absolutely incredible deal. So when I told them they had to teach math, reading, and writing to those 300 peasant kids, it looked like I was asking them to eat dirt. German spoke up first, claiming he did not follow me to the edge of the world just to be a school teacher. Wanted to be a judicial officer or an administrator with a fancy title, not a babysitter for kids covered in mud. Hans backed him up. His grandfather was a great lord's lawmaker, and he has got pretty high aspirations himself. Before coming here, I promised them a land of abundance. Instead, they have only done census work, and now I am reducing them to babysitting. Going to disobey my orders. My voice turned freezing cold. Hans, summoning courage from his scrawny frame, puffed out his chest and claimed his right to reject orders he deemed completely absurd. He threatened to take this to the royal court, claiming the king's authority stood far above mine. The moment he saw my killer gaze, His formal complaint instantly dissolved into a terrified squeal. More than anyone else, I told them calmly. Do not speak to me of rights. Your salary buys my complete authority over you. Total silence. They could feel the heavy tension before a disaster. They died in this God-forsaken place. Their families would not know for years. No one would come looking for them. Nobody would care. Now they serve their Lord. He nodded in pure terror. Do not overestimate your importance, and do not test my patience. Never question my decisions again, or I will execute you. Walked right past them and left. No empty threat. They felt the genuine danger. Educating peasants might seem like a waste of pricey employees, but these two idiots cannot see past their own egos. I'm not just building a farm. I'm building an entire civilization. And a society requires educated people. 300 kids studying today will be 300 capable administrators, engineers, and officers in 5 years. German and Han simply cannot see the chessboard I am playing on. I know exactly what you are thinking, but yes, I sent my entire town to gather manure all morning, and now they are lining up to eat, smelling exactly like you imagine. The outdoor dining hall had all the lovely atmosphere of a public restroom. Walked right through without flinching. We'll deal with that massive compost mountain myself later. Smell is only the beginning. Mo organized everything beautifully using tables, chairs, and utensils confiscated from every single household, stone fire pits with boiling pots. Man is an absolute organization genius when his life depends on it. Peasants parted as I walked by, terrified and anxious. Still had not assigned them new lands to farm, not set taxes, nor did I tell them when to start sowing. And their lord has them collecting manure instead of planting, and quiet out of sheer fear. And the lunch being served to them, half a pound of dry rations with thick bread, oatmeal porridge and vegetable soup. Plenty of food to feed their entire family. I could see the doubt in their eyes. Is this our last supper? Are we getting executed tomorrow? No, my beautiful paranoid idiots. I feed you so you work harder. Enjoy your existential crisis with that oatmeal. Good flavor. We gathered about 10 tons of manure this morning. I need at least 100 tons. Cow, horse, pig, and human waste. I do not discriminate against waste. A healthy ox produces 20 to 30 pounds of manure daily. Multiply that by 80 oxen. Add every town animal and person. Then mix in straw and river mud. Ferment everything for at least 2 weeks. And that is how a lord builds his empire, mountain by mountain. Next, I inspected the communal lunch. Green rations, dark brown bread, thick oatmeal, and clean water. Prepared the exact same meal for me because I keep my word. I eat exactly what they eat. Swallowed that dark bread without chewing, because trust me, you and I would both regret ever coming here if we tasted it. All right. Stick with me for this absolute madness. While everyone enjoyed the banquet, I marched straight to the manure pile. The worst 2 hours of both my lives. Smell hit us like a brick wall. More went pale while I turned green. Liquid manure was pooled everywhere. My stomach was churning, threatening to reject lunch. But I braced myself, grabbed my tools, and jumped right in. 2 hours later, I built a perfect layered compost pile, compacted and sealed with mud for high-temperature fermentation. In 2 weeks, it will turn into actual fertilizer with just a hint of ammonia. When I finally stumbled out, I had filth splattered on my clothes, my pants, and even my soul. My eyes were totally bloodshot, and my face went from green to purple, into the nearest water to scrub myself raw. Then I sniffed my arm. I was fully marinated. Smell was here to stay, and by manure, and the Lord of Poop marinade. Ordered more to make sure all future compost is done exactly like this. Any farmer who takes on this task will receive 2 extra pounds of wheat as a bonus. Moore tried to argue that the peasants were already used to the stench, saw my expression shift, and wisely swallowed his words. Now pay close attention here, because things get technical. Inspect the pens and tools. Then I summoned the blacksmith from Skagtown. His name is Lack. Curly hair, massive beard, chest hair bursting out of his shirt, and arms of iron. The classic blacksmith build. Men are respected because they are actually useful. Unlike most, about the tools. Most of them were bought elsewhere. He only does repairs. His total iron reserve was just 200 pounds. It was his entire fortune, worth more than 8 oxen. He was terrified I would confiscate it. Instead, I drew a heavy-wheeled plow in the dirt. Lax was stunned. It required over 30 pounds of iron to need the wheelwright. Ordered him to build it and promised to pay a fair price. He tried to refuse payment, but then hesitated and said this: "My lord, the church claims everything comes from God. We must leave things as they are. Changing the world is a direct path to hell. Church's technological oppression reached all the way out here, to the most forgotten corner of the kingdom. Those religious tentacles terrify people by claiming invention condemns your soul. No wonder this world is stuck in the dark ages. They made innovation a sin." I stood up, looked Lax dead in the eye, and said, "Tell your God to say that to my face." Lax looked absolutely horrified, dragged him straight to his workshop, and ordered him to get to work immediately. And the wheelmaker. But stay with me, because this is where things don't add up. The current plow made 0 sense. This land is wet and clay heavy. Level 2 agriculture knowledge confirmed it. The light plows they use now barely scratch the surface, never actually loosening the deep soil. This soil you need a heavy plow to dig deep, flip the earth, and break the clay. It is pure logic. The strange part is that someone in the past actually designed an iron plow concept, yet they made a light tool for such dense ground, inventing a paper umbrella. If this were dry, sandy soil, it would make sense. Not. The environment should have forced them to create a heavy plow. It feels like a cheap copy brought to this continent. They were smart enough to work with iron. Why would they make such a massive mistake? Unless someone deliberately sabotaged this continent's agricultural development, stared at that pathetic plow once more. It didn't exist here. Defies all logic of how technology evolves to adapt to its environment. There is something incredibly dark about this world's history. We'll solve that mystery later. For now, I have a plow to build and tons of manure to collect. Priorities are priorities. I went to Lax's workshop to plan the project. Let me give you a quick lesson in economics. 1 gold coin buys 30 to 50 pounds of iron. Inheritance is about 20 coins. Iron is basically gold. Almost all of it goes to the military, then to the nobles, leaving the peasants with mere crumbs. Black showed me his stash. 100 pounds of low-quality iron, 1 pounds per coin. It has impurities, but it works. You need 40 heavy plows. 30 pounds per plow, 1,200 total. Lax is shockingly fast at math for a humble blacksmith. Let's see how we save an entire territory from absolute ruin. 80 plows at 10 pounds each, barely 900 pounds gross. The melting, only 60% remains, about 540 usable pounds. It is not nearly enough. Dark moment, I actually considered melting down Green's armor, but he would definitely notice. Then Lax mentioned that the merchant ships at the docks had iron for sale. The river with my entourage. Maury saw us coming, and his soul literally left his body 50 meters away. He thought I caught his witch friend and was coming to arrest him. I could see his gears turning. Plan A was begging on his knees and blaming the witch, while Plan B was throwing money at the problem. And Plan C, deny everything and pray. In the end, he acted casual and confused, relieved I only wanted iron. The sheer relief almost knocked him down. He wiped his brow with that same nervous sweat he always has. Why does everyone sweat so much around me? Am I really that terrifying? Do not answer. Maury had 450 pounds of iron. Good quality iron, 30 pounds per coin, and 15 gold coins, which was practically all the money I had left. Thought about it for exactly 2 seconds and pulled a ruby from my coat. Bright red, beautiful, nail-sized. My birth gift from the Duke. A magic gem that strengthens the body, helping anyone become a truly transcendental being. Pay close attention to what happens next. Bankrupt noble would sell his lands, horses, and dignity before parting with an inherited family heirloom. These relics are meant to forge the family's next knight. Maury like it was candy. This ruby strengthens the weak. It is worth 15 gold coins. Maury caught it with his eyes completely dilated. Then he did something unexpected. Standing up solemnly, he gently handed back the precious gem to me. Honorable Lord, your finances are tight, but I do not doubt your leadership. This territory has massive potential. Please let me donate this 450 pounds of iron as an investment in our friendship. I cannot accept this ruby. But as he stepped closer to return the gem, he caught a strange scent. His nose immediately began to twitch. He glanced at the blacksmith and the carpenter, thinking it was them. Moving closer, he realized the awful smell came straight from my own skin, from my very being. Well, I did spend 2 hours moving a mountain of manure before coming here. I know exactly what you are thinking right now, and yes, the second-hand embarrassment is real. He realized he almost offered his fortune to a lord who smelled like a latrine. Make a huge mistake. Other nobles wear perfume, smell like compost fertilizer. It is called commitment to agriculture. You guys would not understand. Took back the ruby. I'm a bit sentimental since I had it from birth, but I was ready to let it go. Sentimentality does not manufacture plows. Luckily, Maury gifted me those 450 pounds of iron as a friendly investment. Smart man. I was direct with him. I do not accept charity. I will repay this favor another way. No charity or favors. Nobody will hold power over me. Investments. I gladly accept those, especially since I am broke. I offered him 2 years without trade taxes in town. And then I added, I also need 100 oxen and 100 horses. Before the end of spring, he nearly choked. He could get 50 oxen from Count Khan's neighboring territory, 100 miles away across rapids and rocks. 100 was impossible right now, but draft horses, he could get those. Deal, 50 oxen and 100 draft horses. The cost will be almost all my money, plus what I do not even have yet. Do I care? Not at all. You do not build empires by saving pennies. Maury saw me playing with that ruby like it was a grape, and decided it was worth betting on this crazy lord. Something was eating away at him. Definitely has to do with that witch I pretend not to notice. I already have my eyes on him, not as a threat, but as an interesting piece. 150 pounds of iron back to town with Lax and Vicky, each of us tightly clutching a heavy box. With this new batch and the melted plows, we barely have enough iron for 40 heavy plows. Lax and Vicky worked all night. This is the key technology that will drive and completely alter the destiny of our entire civilization. Invention changes everything. Farmers finished gathering the manure, and Moore had everything moving along exactly as planned. In 2 more days, the entire fertilizer processing will be fully completed. 9 days here, 7 gaining farming experience, 2 days spent reorganizing absolutely everything. And that is where we leave it. But trust me, what comes next is going to be absolute madness. All right. You and I are about to find out what's hiding in those creepy mountains where that witch appeared. Lord of this land, I need answers. Tomorrow we hunt. Woke up before dawn on day 9. I went straight to my chest and pulled out my bow. And trust me, this is no ordinary weapon. Bloodwood, a supernatural material soaked in dragon blood that radiates absolute power. And a coward holding this would charge into battle screaming. The string is made of sea monster tendons cured with ancient magic. You could slash at it with a razor-sharp sword, and you wouldn't even scratch it. Massive pigeon egg diamonds sit on both ends. They aren't for show. They enchant arrows with armor-piercing force. With a draw weight of up to 200 pounds, pulling it is like lifting a grown man with one arm. Power matches a heavy sniper rifle, though with slightly less accuracy and shorter range. Essentially, it is a magical anti-tank weapon shaped like a bow, a replica of my family heirloom worth hundreds of gold coins. Any noble would kill for this. Now pay attention here. But I can't sell it. If my father ever saw this family weapon in a pawn shop, he'd skin me alive. I was never supposed to inherit this, but before I left, the old duke called me to the vault and ordered me to take it. Then he gave me the crack scale motto, carve a path through the thorns. Senile old man who forgot my birthday every single year. Maybe, just maybe, he hadn't completely abandoned me after all. All right, time to push through the thorns. Mountains are waiting. Day 9. I tied back my hair, threw on my hunting gear, slung the bow over my shoulder, and checked the mirror, looking sharp like a fresh lion. Also happens to be a farming expert. Green and Aaron swapped heavy armor for light gear, so I did tell Aaron to bring an iron shield, just in case. I rode to Skagtown and ordered Moore to assemble the guards. As we headed for the mountains, Moore's brain completely short-circuited. He would have at least warned me first. He would have stopped me anyway. His face showed pain, defeat, and something I can only describe as deep, dramatic hatred. Nobody in this world has ever loved and despised a person as much as Moore loves and hates me right now. Those people are dangerous, he pleaded. And what? I should just let dangerous strangers roam free on my land. Moore looked ready to cry, die, and quit all at once. I know what you're thinking. Despite my wild ideas this week, Moore accepted everything in silence. Agricultural revolution. No problem. Mountains of fertilizer. Feeding slaves high-grade noble food. But this is where he draws the line. Those hills absolutely terrify him. So naturally, I forced him to come along. He froze, looking completely hollow inside. 20 of the 30 guards with me, leaving 10 behind to watch the town. The farming production plan basically runs itself. The supervisors can easily handle patrol duties for a single day. I asked if they had any mountain experience. Turns out the locals were already logging these woods before I arrived, which of course is the basis of my argument that they were shamelessly stealing my resources. These men know the terrain well enough to survive, as long as they stay alert. The Breath of Life system registers my territory as my home farm, but the map is blank. I have to explore it myself to reveal it. Once I do, the system tags everything timber zones, quarries, ore veins, hunting grounds, swamps, and rivers. Works like a resource radar. Wherever I walk, if there is a mine nearby, it registers automatically. Though this doesn't mean I have satellite surveillance or that I can bend physical reality with the game. The system is strictly informational and only counts worked land as crops. Those thousands of acres owned by villagers don't count because I haven't touched them. This game takes property rights very seriously. The resource scan makes this journey totally worth it. I need iron deposits, and finding them blindly would take us months without radar. I just need to pass nearby. I'll give you guys some quick history while we climb. Around 130 years ago, the Conqueror Emperor decreed that anyone who settled the wildlands owned them. 20 years of massive expansion followed. Then the conqueror sailed into the dark sea, fell ill, and a terrible storm wiped out his entire fleet. And he never returned. Without his iron fist, neighboring nobles immediately invaded, stealing the very lands the settlers spent 2 decades developing. Defenseless settlers stood zero chance. Eventually, the 3 great dukes returned to stabilize things, but the damage was done. Stick with me to see how this unfolds. Dive into an era where civilization stopped expanding and started tearing each other apart over what was left. Is the perfect example of that absolute stagnation, moving slowly from a few hundred people to barely 2,000 across thousands of acres for decades, aesthetically inefficient. That is what happens when an entire continent decides that exploring is only for fools. As we headed in, Moore was gasping like a dying walrus. He weighs nearly 200 pounds, so this is pure extreme cardio. Please, my lord, he gasped, out of breath. There are killers in these hills. Your safety is what matters most. You do not need to risk yourself. Something here can kill 20 guards and 2 combat knights, I casually replied. It can kill me too, and that is fine. Moore's sweat literally doubled in an instant. I think he is losing weight in real time. Tell me about the mountain people, I asked. He admitted he knew very little. Some have lived here since before his father died, and he inherited the post. Dangerous beasts, treacherous terrain, and right in the middle of all that, fugitives and outlaws, so strong that nobody in their right mind would hunt them down, which is exactly why we will. The mental map was lighting up with every single step. Somewhere in these mountains lay rich mineral veins, hiding outlaws, and maybe even a lost young witch, along with secrets this basin has hidden for decades. It is time to find out what my backyard actually looks like. Now pay attention, because right before we reached camp, I felt that sixth sense of an arrow aimed directly at my head. I know archery. When a bow is aimed at you, your body knows it. Aaron felt it too. Rustling in the bushes. Someone was trying to encircle us. He raised his shield and took a defensive stance to my left. Green's gaze sharpened, sword drawn, standing back to back with me. Single formation. The regular guards blessed their own slow reflexes. Seeing 2 high-tier combat knights ready to draw blood, they finally realized they should probably start panicking too. You want to make an enemy of your lord? I shouted. A voice answered from the trees, we do not have any lord. Now you do. The strings tightened all around us. Amusing. Not even bother to draw my weapon. Just stood there, hands empty, radiating the vibe of someone who could care less if they shot. You want to fight knights. You cannot win. Come out, Neil, and I will pardon everything. Silence followed, then whispers. A heated debate was unfolding in the bushes. One wanted to surrender, another refused. Finally, a young hunter stepped out to negotiate. We only want to be left in peace. We'll give you our game if you leave us alone. He trailed off because I was staring with a very strange expression. You see, I recognized his face. Not from real life, but from a mobile gacha card. It was Dota, my 2-star summon, 5 E-rank stats, tracking skill, and keen eyesight. He was standing right in front of me. I bet you are thinking the exact same thing. He is bargaining for freedom with his mobile game master. Just swear your loyalty to me, I said. His brain completely broke. What? On this land, I have the right to claim absolutely everything. Everyone here is my subject. Tell me your name. My apostle Dota Gurney. I found him. Real people confirmed. Game is not random. It is summoning real people from my own territory. It is an excellent piece of data to remember. In fact, by recruiting my first apostles, the game unlocked new modes: battle simulation, dispatch combat, warbands, and destiny expeditions. Completely useless for now, since I currently have 7 apostles and 0 army, but it is good to know options are waiting once I stop farming fertilizer and start conquering. Me to the others in these mountains. Ordered Dota. I will decide who serves me based on how they behave. Meanwhile, in another plot line I knew nothing about, the witch Shasta was following Gwyneth's mother's directions deep into the thick forest. A bag of peas. Apparently, her family secretly left food by a twisted chestnut tree right next to the stream, drop-off spot for their exiled daughter. Shasta hung the peas on the tree and waited. A whole day passed with no news. She slept in the freezing mountain cold, though her powers kept her from freezing to death. On the second day, a tiny, ragged figure approached the tree. A thin girl wearing tattered clothes seemed to reach the bag and dumping the peas into her shirt like an impromptu apron. Looked panicked and quickly fled. Shasta followed her to a makeshift shelter of branches and leaves that barely stood, something impossible for a child to build alone. Someone must have helped her before. This little girl had been living alone out in the harsh wilderness for over a year, looked about 12 or 13, surviving on secret drop-offs and whatever the woods provided. Shasta finally showed herself. Gwyneth got so scared she dropped everything, and that is where we leave it, waiting to see if this poor girl will accept Shasta's help. Jump into this story together. Shasta shows her magic to calm her. Do not fear. You are a witch. Gwyneth shrieked in horror at the sight, backing away in tears. Are you one too?
No, not me.
The girl wept inconsolably. I have no evil powers or demons inside me. Leave me alone, she cried, turning around to run away. Shasta hugged her tightly, holding back her own terror. Everything will be fine. We'll eat bread daily and sleep in a real bed. No more cold and rain. No one will burn you. We're not born on this earth just to suffer, not wake up just to die. Meanwhile, down the hill, I was happily organizing my map and subduing some hunters, completely unaware that such a painful emotional rescue was taking place just a few kilometers away from me. 2 stories, 1 mountain, and 0 coordination. Classic Skagtown style. Those hunters surrendered immediately. We're only 15 against my 20 guards and 2 knights. Mention here, I did not even need to fight. Remind them of one simple fact. In this town, they need me. Without access to the town, they will have no grain, clothes, or iron tools. Their comfortable mountain life depends entirely on trading with the settlement that now belongs to me. Checkmate without weapons. I gave them 1 month to move to Skagtown. Not like it, but I was not asking. Then I had Dota, my newly sworn ally, spill everything about the most wanted fugitives in these lands. First, Dr. Garland, a mysterious and highly respected healer of unknown origin. Second, Jet, the deserter who fled the battlefield with nowhere else to go. He ended up here, the usual story. Third, Dick, the traitorous knight who murdered the lord he served. The entire aristocracy wants his head in these mountains and is extremely dangerous. Fourth and most interesting, Borg the Great Bandit. This guy is a total legend. Killed a noble, stole his fortune, and gave it to the poor like a medieval Robin Hood. Quite touching. Though after he left, another lord appeared and hanged every single peasant who had received that wealth. Wonderful. Such a cheerful story. Dota warned me to stay far away from Borg for my own safety. Suddenly, the roar of a magical beast tensed the air. Hunters actively avoid. They usually stick to their territory, but when they attack humans, the result is always fatal. I know what you're thinking, and yeah, I pressured Dota until he confessed under my cold, noble lord gaze. Last one is Gwyneth, the Witch of Destiny. Though there is actually a witch in my territory. Mystery solved. That is who Shasta was looking for. It all fits. Now let me tell you what happened behind my back. And things do not look good for me. Bandit Borg visited the traitorous knight Dick at his cabin. Dragon has entered the mountain, Borg announced. He meant me how sweet. Then he started complaining. Dragon will come for us. The weak hunters will fall. And what about us? Jet, the doctor, the little witch. No one will be safe. He will sell the witch to the church. Are you going to let them burn a child? Dick, with the patience of a saint, asked what he wanted. His answer, kill the dragon before disaster strikes. Your madness gets worse every day, Borg. Dick made things very clear to him. Borg has daily nightmares about the peasants executed because of his so-called generosity. He believes he killed his mother. He is broken, and his only solution is murdering nobles and sharing their wealth. completely forgetting that this plan already destroyed an entire village. Obviously, Dick refused to help him, warned that if he killed me, my father, the Grand Duke, would destroy everything in revenge. He insisted with a maniacal look, "I will kill Roman Crackscale and that fat pig, give his gold to the poor, and distribute the land. Follow me to hunt more dragons. We'll wipe out the nobles, and everything will be fine." Dick refused, and Borg glared at him coldly. Dick only held his old rusty sword, as if clinging to a memory as Borg walked away, stood alone, staring at an old worn silver necklace before letting out a heavy sigh. So basically, I am building plows and teaching math while a crazy Robin Hood plans to assassinate me using monsters. And the only guy capable of stopping him just decided it was not his problem. And that is where we leave it, a terrified little witch eating peas and hiding, while I am completely clueless. Alright, get ready, because you and I are about to watch this crazy guy rule his land while playing a gacha game. Being a lord is awesome. You are always the last to know when someone wants you dead. While Shasta was having a heartbreaking therapy session with little Gwyneth up in the mountains, which I had absolutely no clue about, I was just doing my own thing, recruiting some seriously weird people. Dota took me to this filthy doctor's clinic first. And let me tell you, this guy Garland definitely earned that dirty nickname. His beard might have been white once, but now it was a biohazard shade of brown that was honestly just disgusting. His whole body looked like it had not touched water since the last century. His cabin was packed with jars, herbs, bugs and alcohol, and a crucible. Medieval pharmacy. I spotted something interesting on his shelf. Faith medallion featuring the design of the 33 divine seats. Lines connecting 33 points in a holy church pattern. You are from the church, right? I asked him without hesitating. Jaw literally dropped. He had known Garland forever and never noticed a single thing. Moore was sweating so much I thought he would dehydrate, being in his own head a witch and an agent. What else is my town hiding? Is there a dragon under the bakery? He did not even flinch. Now pay close attention here. This old man freezes with a sharp glare, watching me inspect everything like I own it, which I totally do. The way he organized his gear was classic church style, and only they have a real medical education system. His medical knowledge easily beats everyone else's. They even have supernatural healing powers thanks to divine arts. Though honestly, their regular medicine is barbaric. Some of those treatments are way worse than the actual disease. In a world where just not killing the patient makes you an excellent doctor, Garland is a certified genius. Are you out of the church? Me? And says, servants of the gods serve for life, he replied in a raspy voice. There is no resigning. He said nothing. Is this considered desertion? I have not abandoned my faith. I just left the institution. That theological stance is pretty fascinating to me. Believing in the gods, but rejecting their only authorized franchise on earth. It is like loving pizza but hating pizzerias. And yeah, I know what you are thinking, but my philosophy on religion is actually simple. If they're real, powerful, and care about their believers, then why is this world still so miserable? Why do they not help? Why are people starving while the church collects heavy taxes? Gods are real but do not have the power to change the world. Why should I even fear them? Do not care about us. I could burn down every church, and they wouldn't blink. And if they don't exist, the church is just a highly successful scam with swords. Whatever way you look at it, I owe them zero respect. I gave their gods a shot. They did nothing for me. So when I start fighting, they better stay out of my way or I will go after them too. I was about to recruit Garland with my usual mix of threats and job offers, when a bone-chilling scream tore through the silent mountain forest. Not human nor entirely beast, something between a slaughtered pig and the earth itself screaming. Everyone froze. Somewhere in the woods, something awful was happening. And based on the timeline I pieced together later, this was happening right next to where Shasta found little Gwyneth. Oh, did I mention all of this went down at that exact moment? Borg, that crazy bandit, decided today was the day to pull off his master plan. Lure a magic beast to me and fake my murder as a wild animal attack. Except the beast didn't come for me. It headed straight toward the witches. Let's review this field trip. I have a secret church doctor, a hunter turned apostle, a sweaty fat guy, 20 nervous guards, 2 combat knights, and a crazy bandit plotting my death, hidden deserter, a traitorous knight who can't make up his mind, and 2 witches about to get eaten by a magic beast. And I am just standing there thinking that scream sounded pretty close. I should probably go check that out. Welcome to the worst field trip in feudal history. Birds came bursting out of the forest forest like fireworks going off inside. That deathly scream cut off instantly, like someone unplugged a speaker right in the middle of a song. The whole mountain went wild with roars and howls echoing everywhere. Moore was shaking like a human earthquake. Could see the sweat dripping down his skin. Lord, please let us leave now, I beg of you. I asked Green about that scream. A wild boar killed instantly, a mountain boar of the magic beast class. And in the end, you and I know one thing is clear: whatever killed that beast is a transcendent level monster. One strike and he was dead. Absolute madness. Stick with me, because we're about to find out who did this. Could be the traitor knight or the deserter. Let's move. Suddenly, a guard outside screamed that a beast was coming. A massive shadow loomed closer. Total chaos erupted as guards and hunters scrambled in absolute terror, burst out of Garland's cabin and roared at the top of my lungs to form a defensive line that shut them up for about 2 seconds. Just enough time to see a 3-meter grizzly charging at us at an absolutely ridiculous speed. 30 meters in 5 seconds. This beast was basically a furry freight train with an insatiable thirst for blood. Defensive line. They roared again. Men tried to raise their shields half-heartedly, but it was completely useless. Bear plowed through them like wet paper toys. 5 guards were sent flying high into the air. They couldn't even withstand the impact. 10-ton beast, your body simply gives up and hits the dirt. Pure chaos. Suddenly, Aaron launched a frontal assault with his shield, rammed the metal into the beast's head, braced against a rock, and with superhuman effort stopped the charge cold. He was red with rage. His entire body trembled under the sheer pressure, but he held. Right then, Green appeared from behind. His massive copper sword came slicing down toward the creature's neck. It should have been fatal, but the beast dodged. Didn't go clean through, slipping after slicing 10 centimeters deep. A nasty bone-deep wound, but not lethal. Here's the best part. Noble does next. Legendary dragon scale bow. A priceless family heirloom, striking the bear square in the face. Blunt force left it completely dazed. Ancestors literally hunted dragons with this weapon, and here I am using it to whack a bear. First Duke must be rolling in his grave. Hunters drew their bows, but didn't dare release an arrow. There was too much risk of hitting me, since I was standing right in the center of the carnage. Green Aaron, get it off me, I yelled, backpedaling. Aaron rolled across the ground to break free. Green, who is absolutely insane, leaped onto the bear's back and drove his sword straight into its spine, 20 centimeters deep, flipped backward, and ripped the blade out as he landed. Roaring Bear gave chase. Bet you and I were thinking the exact same thing when those useless arrows just bounced off its hide. Simple mosquito bites. My turn to draw the bloodwood bow, with a massive 200-pound draw weight. Pulled back hard, aimed carefully, and fired. The whistle of the arrow slicing the air was beautiful and deadly, pierced the monster's hide and vanished inside. 80 centimeters of metal swallowed by its flesh in an instant. The bear stumbled, howling in agonizing pain, knocked another arrow and another and another. 5 lethal shots ended up embedded deep inside that massive beast. Internal organs were completely shredded. With my right arm completely numb from the effort, I finally lowered the bow. Even then it was still alive, crawling forward in agonizing pain. Tipped spear, and alongside Aaron and Green, we finished it off, piercing its throat and brain. Done. I stood before the carcass, breathing heavily. This colossal beast was a literal treasure chest. One heart are worth a fortune for curing diseases, exclusive delicacies reserved strictly for high nobility. Then Dota knelt to examine it and suddenly went pale. My lord, this reeks of frenzy grass. Herb acts like a drug, triggering an uncontrollable violent rage in any predator. Extremely rare, and no ordinary human could feed it to a magical beast without being eaten alive. Dota understood instantly. Only one man in these mountains was crazy enough to drug a magical bear and send it straight to kill me.
The great bandit.
Lunatic tried to assassinate me using a bear as his weapon. Dota confessed everything. Bandit has completely lost his mind and views nobles as monsters to be slain. He swore he'd kill me and distribute my wealth. I locked my gaze onto the thick forest. Hidden in the trees, a madman watched us. Furious his killer pet failed to finish the job. None of them leave here alive, I muttered. My right arm was still vibrating from the shot, and the beast's blood was already soaking the dirt. The game system was probably trying to award me experience points for the hunt, But I wasn't even thinking about that. Only focus was hunting down that psycho. Split my forces and sent Aaron to the west. The hunt for this madman is officially on, and you and I are absolutely not missing the grand finale. Alright, you and I are diving back into this wild story with Green and Dota. Dota's tracking skills are unreal. Just look at those broken branches. He reads the forest floor like an open book. Someone panicked passed through here, looking everywhere. Borg left a terrible trail. Lunatic is on the loose, probably ranting about dragons. Green, always curious, asks Dota a quick question. Could you actually beat that legendary bandit? Dota gives him a serious look, asking if Green can. Green just smiles confidently. But Borg was level 3 or 4 back in his prime, and that was 20 years before I was even born. So I basically gave him a 20-year head start to be worthy of fighting me. Hope he used it well. Dota's eye literally twitches. This guy's confidence is almost a disease, but Green isn't stupid. You can take him head on, but he knows these mountains, and that is where you come in. Keep me from falling into his traps. Sounds fair. The two head deeper into the brush. Meanwhile, Borg wanders around like a broken toy, mumbling that he needs to kill the dragon. Death to all dragons. Once they die, everything will be fine. Definitely did not work out, getting more unhinged and dangerous by the second. Now pay attention, because here is where things get crazy for me. Aaron finds the witches first. Standing before Shasta and little Gwyneth, the missing girl everyone was searching for, he delivers his lord's orders with a cold, solid expression. Nobody leaves. Down an 800-pound magic stag with dual daggers and spells. She was not about to be stopped. Move, she growls. Cannot stop me. What are you, level 1 or 2? You are not even in your prime. I have killed level 5 knights. Aaron does not even flinch. You might be strong, but you will not defy my lord's orders. Enforce the law. Several spears emerge from the bushes as hunters draw their bows. The message is crystal clear. Completely surrounded, Shasta crosses her blood-stained short swords over her chest. Dark smoke pours from her blades, swirling like a nightmare. Want to test my swords, but right then she senses danger. Sensation of having a target painted on your back. Looks up, searching the dense canopy of trees. Barely spots a tall, sturdy silhouette drawing a massive bow. A diamond-tipped arrow is aimed right at her head under the light. That was me. Want to try my arrow? To be honest, I did not fully understand what was happening there. I knew as Aaron found two strangers. One of them was radiating a bloodlust that chilled me to the bone, waving magic swords and threatening my loyal knight. Behind that terrifying swordswoman, I saw a crying girl shaking with fear. It had to be Gwyneth, the witch Dota mentioned, the one Shasta was desperately searching for. Thing finally starts to make sense. The mysterious Skagtown witch, Maury's anxiety, the hunt in the mountains, was connected somehow, but explanations could wait. I was aiming a 200-pound bow at a woman who claimed to kill level 5 warriors. The knight was just one step away from a total massacre, and behind my back, a crazed bandit was trying to summon drugged-up beasts. Shasta stares at me, and I stare right back. You feel that silence too, right? Only Gwyneth's crying and distant beast roars echo through the quiet woods. Nobody moves. Business as usual on a random Tuesday in Skagtown. Lower my bow, but not out of kindness. That thing takes over 100 pounds of draw weight. Cannot negotiate while holding up the weight of a refrigerator. Witch trespassing on my lands to kidnap my people. You must want to die. Shasta snaps back immediately. This girl is also a witch. Do not care if she is a witch, fairy, or talking horse. In my territory is mine. Are you trying to claim what is mine? Shasta laughs bitterly. Well, well. Would you really accept a witch as your subject? I will invite the entire witch forest. Are you threatening me? You started with the jokes, I reply firmly. Let my sister and me go, or I will have this place destroyed. Let me tell you, do not buy that lie for a single second. That forest is just a secret society hiding from the church. They spend their lives running from inquisitors like cockroaches when you flip on the light. The guts to send an army for every lost member. They would have been wiped out decades ago. Would never risk it all for a kid and a loudmouth with magic swords. But here is why I wanted this girl so badly. Once I saw Dota and understood my warriors come directly from my own village. Trust me, everything clicked beautifully. My character summoning depends on my people. The more stars they have, the rarer and more talented they will be. Green has 4 stars. Green has 3. And honestly, you and I are going to love seeing them in action. Dota is a 2-star hunter. Decent enough. The rest are 1 star. But let's dive in and see why witches are so rare. A normal girl suddenly awakening magic out of nowhere, winning the genetic lottery. Gwyneth is definitely a high-level apostle, probably the best in my territory, even surpassing Aaron. Over my dead body is that woman taking my future 6-star unit, the wealth in the family. We'll get her card eventually. Zero right to negotiate with me, I warned Shasta. Witch Forest has no rights here either. Nobody leaves Skagtown. My people stay right where they are. Non-negotiable. Smoke began rising from Shasta. Really think being a lord makes you stronger than an elite knight? You are so sure you can kill us all. Why haven't you? Everyone would just assume monsters did it. She hesitated because I was right. Could not kill all of us without at least one witness escaping. And if someone escaped and reported that a witch murdered the Crackscale heir, the church wouldn't be the only ones hunting them. The nobles would join in. Continent's two biggest rivals would team up just to burn down the witch forest. Game over. She knew it. And I knew she knew it. Both understood the situation completely. Pay close attention here because she was still hesitating, gripping her smoke blades while weighing her options. Could she grab Gwyneth and escape before Aaron stopped her? Could she outrun my arrows in this dense forest? Aaron stepped in front of me, raising his shield, a perfect defensive stance, very own human wall. Meanwhile, Shasta was imagining the worst things a corrupt noble would do to a kid. She saw me as a monster. Leaving Gwyneth with me meant condemning the little girl to an absolutely terrible fate. Lady, I just want to add her to my gacha collection. This is about stats and star ratings. I'm no villain, just a gamer. But I could not exactly explain that to her, could I? Hunters and guards felt the thick tension in the air. Some hunters were already doubting the loyalty they just swore to me. Barely teamed up, and now we are fighting a witch. We do not even have salt, which apparently works as anti-witch ammo here, and costs way more than they can afford. The standoff dragged on. Neither of us planned to blink. Suddenly, a wolf's howl echoed from the mountain, followed by several others. Shasta and I both paled as a lunatic's voice echoed through the trees, screaming to kill the dragon and everyone else. That crazy Borg was still running free, sending us even more drugged-up magic beasts. Excellent. I'm stuck in a Mexican standoff with a smoke witch while babysitting. What a night to chase a madman into the forest. Now a wolf pack is coming. Seriously, let's pause and appreciate how crazy Tuesdays are in Skagtown. One wolf. Fine. A magic wolf is bad, but a whole pack of 2-meter, 200-pound monsters. Time to panic. Shasta tried to run off with Gwyneth. I stepped out from behind Aaron's shield, playing the ruthless villain. Leave and I kill her.
Yes, I said it.
Not proud of it, but follow my cold logic for a second. If she escapes with the girl, they vanish into the trees while my men become wolf food. My people would die just to save her. I told her I wouldn't aim at her. Aim at the kid, and every hunter here will fire with me. Shasta shook with rage, but agreed since she had no choice. I shouted that we either all die or fight together and survive. Choose. She chose to fight, ordered the hunters to open fire. Guards with shields forming a front wall, Aaron protecting Gwyneth in the back, with orders to take down anyone trying to run. I barely managed a couple of lines of my inspiring speech before the wolves attacked. They were smart and saw our defensive wall. They did not charge head-on. They flanked us like grey ghosts, completely ignoring the rough terrain that slowed us down. Reinforce the flanks, I screamed while drawing my bow. Aimed for the chest, but ended up hitting its back leg. But my arrow's power was so ridiculous it completely blew the leg off, sending the wolf rolling into a bush, howling in pain. There's one down. The biggest wolf suddenly charged from the right. I have to admit, Shasta was impressive. She leapt up, wrapped her foot in black smoke, and delivered a deadly flying kick. Both crashed down. Jumped right back up as the wolf did the same, clashing with pure savage fury. Suddenly, one lunged straight at me. Swung my bow like a bat, hitting the beast so hard it literally went flying. 30 pounds of enchanted wood straight to the skull is guaranteed to ruin anyone's day. And wolf jumped me. I blocked with my bow, but its jaws slipped past the string and bit my ribs. Trust me, things get crazy next. Check this out. My armored hunting suit actually held up, and those nasty fangs couldn't pierce through. Staring down at the wolf gnawing on my chest, I felt a cold annoyance and swung my bow with sheer brute force. The bowstring made of sea monster tendons sliced through its throat like wire-cutting fur, hide and trachea clean off. Blood drenched half my body as I shoved the twitching corpse aside and quickly scanned the battlefield. Everything was falling apart. My guards were getting slaughtered. 5 or 6 of them were already down. The wolves were riddled with arrows, but none were fatal. It only drove them into a bloodthirsty, wounded frenzy. The men were pathetic, totally useless. I was deeply regretting sending Green and Dota away when another howl echoed out from a different direction nearby. The pack hesitated. Their alpha hadn't even joined the fight yet. We were only fighting the B team. Blood ran cold as Aaron rushed over, ready to grab me and run. But then the alpha's howl turned into a sudden shriek of agony. Someone was attacking it. Green and Dota. Nope. But watch closely. The beast scrambled as a man leaped from the trees, wielding a massive greatsword. With a single sweep, he cut down the first fleeing beast and instantly caught the stumbling second one, killing both. Brutal, efficient, and seasoned, decades of muscle memory in every strike. Shasta finished off 2 more. I managed to bash 2 to death with my bow like a caveman. The skirmish lasted under 3 minutes, but felt like 3 hours. I stood panting, covered in wolf blood, my arms trembling from the strain. The men were battered and shocked, but alive. The mysterious warrior walked up to us. He was clearly no amateur. His form was wild, oozing raw, untamed power. Suddenly, little Gwyneth ran straight toward him, yelling, Uncle Dick. Stared at him, wild hair, heavy stubble, weathered face, and that gritty aura of a man who has slain everything. Looked like a wandering Ronin, but his presence screamed massive combat experience. Dick, the traitor knight who murdered his own lord, hunted by every single noble in the kingdom ever since. I know what you're thinking. This is absolute madness. He saves my life, and the little forest witch calls him uncle. Named Hunter, a church deserter doctor, and a duel with a smoke witch, a high-speed attack by a drugged bear, a wolf skirmish, and a heavily ruined reputation, and now a wanted fugitive, who happens to be the most skilled warrior I have ever seen. I need to go hiking more often. Dick, thanks for saving us. So how about swearing loyalty to me? The guy stared at me like I just suggested jumping off a cliff. I am Dick the traitor. I assassinated my own master. There is not a single place for me on this continent. I spread my hands and smiled. Then let me be that place. Stared at me, wrestling with inner doubt. This blood-soaked kid is grinning like crazy and offering me a home. Doesn't he know I murder my employers? Is he suicidal? Is there an army with axes hidden somewhere waiting for his signal? He hesitated for a moment. He had never imagined this, but those young eyes meant every word. 10 years of running, hiding, sleeping on dirt, and suddenly someone offers a real home. I wanted it desperately. Before sealing the deal, another figure strolled out of the trees, carrying the severed head of the alpha wolf like a grocery bag. The deserter Jet, an ordinary, average-looking guy wearing leather armor so filthy it practically had its own life. Expressionless, emotionless. He had slaughtered the terrifying alpha wolf all by himself, without taking a single scratch. At least a level 2 transcendent, stronger than Aaron in raw combat. On a job. Dick looked completely betrayed. Do you ask everyone that? Well, yeah, buddy. Recruiting is my thing. Someone strong, I offer them a job. I'm the most aggressive recruiter in the world. Jet's answer was deadpan no. Are you sure? I could have you executed. He took a step back. Then I would flee elsewhere. Points for honesty. Just then Shasta cut in. I helped you with the wolves. Now let Gwyneth come with me. I glanced sideways. Since when did I agree to that? He clenched his jaw. He was right. Without her holding off 2 wolves, my guards would have perished before backup arrived. But a deal is a deal, and we never actually made one. Suddenly, another chubby guard burst through the bushes, panting after dragging his massive frame up the mountain to get help. He brought along 3 wounded guards and hunters. Hearing the wolf howls, he ran straight into danger. For a notorious coward afraid of his own shadow, this took serious guts. He passed the test. His face lit up seeing me, spotting Dick, Jet, and the kid. You and I just watched his smile instantly vanish. Let's watch together as the town official finally recognizes little Gwyneth. Recognized him too, fearing him far more than me. Having never seen a lord, she grew up under this official's terrifying authority. She hid behind Dick, trying to disappear into him. Sighing, I suggested we let the girl decide who she goes with. She is coming with me, Shasta declared. This is exactly why peaceful negotiations are completely impossible. I paused to think, not fight. My strength was shattered. and Dick and Jet might not back me up. Shasta could easily escape alone even without the girl. We decided to let Gwyneth choose, and she agreed. All stared at this terrified, malnourished 12-year-old girl who survived alone in the forest for 2 years. "Gwyneth," Shasta said softly, "you want to come with me?" The girl looked at Shasta, then at me, seeking Dick and Jet, but both looked away. They were leaving the decision entirely to her. No safety net. Alone in that bloody forest, surrounded by dead wolves and strangers arguing over her ultimate fate. Now pay attention, because in that quiet moment her entire tragic life flashed by, secrets I would learn much later, like when her powers awakened and everything shattered, walls collapsing, her father's legs snapping, and the oxen going completely wild. How she cried out to her mother, while her father screamed with pure disgust that she was cursed. And that freezing night when her mother hugged her for the last time, hanging a bag of peas around her neck, days of family food given to the daughter they were losing, right before pushing her into the dark. Go to the mountain and never return. 2 years alone, eating wild berries, trapped rabbits, and sketchy mushrooms. She would have died that first winter if Dick had not given her a bearskin, or Jet had not brought her meat. If Garland had not cured her illnesses, or Borg had not taught her survival. Local hunters kept her alive with supplies, and her mother secretly brought food when she could scrape some together. Hungry, freezing, and alone, she never tried to go back home. Her mother told her never to come down, and now everyone was asking her what she wanted. Gwyneth looked up, tears streaming down her cheeks, washing away the dirt. For a split second, that dirty, broken face seemed to shine with hope. She said she wanted to go home. Clearing fell dead silent. Shasta's expression crumbled, and Dick slowly closed his eyes. Then I felt an unexpected pang in my chest. I'm a reincarnated gamer building an agricultural empire with a gacha system. I had calculated this girl's value, her star rating, and her strategic potential. I know what you're thinking, but she was just a kid missing her mom. Turns out, I won. She chose her home. And since Skagtown is on my land, the score is Roman 1, Smoke Lady 0. Shasta looked like she had swallowed a whole lemon sideways, and I cannot blame her. Climbed mountains, slept in the freezing cold, fought wolves, and tolerated my lovely personality, all for nothing. I had promised something earlier. I would not have fought, she muttered, so I made a grand formal promise. Swear a noble covenant in the name of Crackscale. Gwyneth will never face persecution in my lands. Answer, I will not hand her over. As long as she serves me loyally, I will protect her. Everyone fell silent. A noble covenant is basically an incredibly strict magical contract. Break it, the king strips everything: title, land, power, dignity. For a noble, this is worse than death, because at least death brings honor. I was totally serious about this, though let's be real. If I eventually acquire Gwyneth's apostle card, this is just a basic perk. I didn't even promise her a salary. Shasta was genuinely shocked. You are quite decent for a noble, she said. So I went for the jackpot, offering her a job. Of course not. Birch is hunting you everywhere. You should always hide out here. Things are going to change, she snapped, instantly shutting up. That immediately set off my alarms. Change how? Change the subject by threatening Gwyneth. But I ignored that and filed away her revelation. Something big is brewing among the witches. My name is Shasta, the Nightmare Witch, she announced with great drama. Never heard of her, which is actually great. Famous witch is a dead witch. You need to hide. Find me discreetly, I advised. I'm not ready to fight the church just yet. Looked at me as if I were completely insane. Running a war against the church must sound like absolute madness to her. For me, it is just another task. And you and I know we will conquer this territory soon. All right, let us look closely at this. And just brought the report: 3 dead, 8 wounded, and is permanently out of commission. Combined with travel injuries, my 20-man expedition is now cut exactly in half. These guards are terrible soldiers, but they are all I have. Whining solves nothing. I stare into the distant forest. No sign of Green. He is still hunting for Borg, who is lost deep in the woods. Much later, I learned the actual truth about why Borg behaves this way, and it is not funny at all. 50 years ago, Viking-like raiders from the frozen sea raided the coastal town of Reefstone. They occupied it for months, unleashing pure chaos. A teenage girl survived her family's massacre only to suffer the absolute worst. Months later, she gave birth to a boy. She named him Borg. Alone, traumatized, and barely a child herself, she raised him against all odds, every trick and desperate measure to keep them both alive. Gave everything to this child born of violence, whom she had every right to hate but chose to love. When Borg turned 10, she died before even reaching 25. Literally worked herself to death so her son could live. He left him nothing but the simple gift of existence. Borg felt absolutely nothing. He was just a kid who understood nothing, simply kept moving forward, fought, stole, survived, and became a mercenary paid to kill. Standard stuff for this brutal medieval era. Years later, as a battle-hardened adult, the buried memories slowly started returning until they completely flooded his mind. That fragile woman who shielded him through impossible years, withered and consumed like wood burnt from within. The mercenary in his entire unit began crying in his sleep. Comrades mocked the big, strong man, weeping for his mother, but his battle axe had lost its edge. Something snapped inside him. He abandoned his weapons, tried farming, and saw misery everywhere. Exhausted mothers, starving families, and children enslaved because their parents could not afford to pay the taxes. The thin, frail silhouette of his mother overlapped with every single suffering woman. One night he snapped, murdered a viscount in his castle, stole everything, and handed it to local farmers. Some of those very farmers took the stolen goods straight to the next noble to betray him. Families who stayed silent ended up hanged, including a young girl whose swinging body reminded him of his mother. That is when he lost his mind. Not evil. Let that sink in for a second. He is a broken man drowning in guilt, trying to save lives, but accidentally causing their death. And now he has targeted his next dragon, convinced that killing enough nobles will magically fix everything. But it will not. Saying that to someone whose mind broke 40 years ago and never healed. Green was still tracking him through the forest. Hoped my foolish knight knew what he was getting into. This was no longer a simple hunt. An imminent mercy killing was coming. Come out and fight me. A wild savage emerged from the trees, as if nature had literally spat him out. It was Borg himself. 20 years living in the wild had erased all trace of civilization from him. Tangled hair, a shrunken body, and eyes of pure madness. My priority was not him, but Green. I sent him to find you. Where is he? Green stepped shamefully out of the bushes. Right here, my lord. He had tracked him repeatedly, but the old bandit kept slipping away. Realizing the bandit was targeting me, he ran back. He arrived way too late, looking incredibly embarrassed. The very first time I had seen Green look so humble. Then I noticed Borg's weapon, a stone tied to a branch. Legendary bandit, this feared assassin of nobles. The guy who drugged a bear and summoned wolves to kill me was now challenging me to a duel with a branch and a stone. I almost laughed. Then I noticed Moore was pale and trembling. They had a history. "Do you call me a dragon?" I asked. Borg's answer was surprisingly poetic. "You have no claws but rule lands. You have no wings but soar above everyone. You do not breathe fire, but the entire world trembles before you. Who resembles a dragon more than you?" For 3 seconds he almost convinced me, and Dick whispered that Borg had blood from the frozen north. That explained everything. Those invaders worship warrior gods and believe in a hall of heroes where the fallen feast eternally. The mythology is filled with dragon slayers. In Borg's broken mind, he was not some beggar holding a stick, the hero standing on the deck of his ship, about to slay the beast. I tried to reason with him. "Will only repeat history. You cannot save drowning people by pulling from the shore. They will drag you down. I will end up using your corpse as a bridge. You must stay for this final showdown. Come along with me." Logical side was screaming to just order the knights to tie him up. There was something about this broken man, swinging his stone axe at the sky and fighting imaginary dragons while his old friends watched in pity. "Your duel," I said. Everyone stared in disbelief as I took Aaron's shield and green sword. "Come, dragon slayer." Borg roared, and with the fury of freezing seas in his eyes, he charged like a legendary berserker. And honestly, even after 20 years without food, training, or real weapons, he still moved like a true veteran. His footwork was something only decades of real combat could forge. Read my moves, dodged, countered, and swung that useless wooden axe with terrifying precision. I'm a level 1 transcendent with enchanted steel, yet this starving lunatic pushed me for 10 minutes. But bodies have limits. The vine snapped, the stone head flew off, and in the end he was just hitting my shield with a stick. In his mind, he was fighting a dragon in stormy seas under pitch-black skies, with his mother watching proudly from the deck. It was 3 days and nights of glorious battle. Leaped one last time with his remaining strength, bringing his axe down on the dragon's neck. His stick bounced off my shield, and Borg collapsed. Fought him before he hit the ground. Body was freezing, his eyes fading, and I knew this was not just exhaustion. His inner fire was dying out. 20 years of madness, guilt, and starvation were finally finally taking their toll. Pay attention to what happens next. Called Gwyneth over and whispered what to say Uncle Borg. She knelt down crying and held his hand. His fingers trembled, searching for hers as he whispered, "Did I kill the dragon?" Little witch who survived 2 years alone on that mountain, thanks to his teachings, just looked up at me. "You did it, Uncle Borg." A faint smile touched his lips before his face crumbled. "Mom, I am sorry. I killed you. Forgive my cursed blood and my sins. You must have suffered so much pain." Wept like a child. No longer a warrior or a legend, just a son understanding his mother's sacrifice 30 years too late. He did not want the Hall of Heroes anymore. Frozen paradise offered him absolutely no warmth. He only wanted the one warmth he ever knew, slender arms holding him, rocking him like a newborn. Just like the beginning, stood there with that borrowed sword, covered in blood and completely exhausted. I know this hurts both of us. Watching a madman die in a young girl's arms on a forgotten mountain, I should make a joke. But I cannot. Some things are too sacred. Borg's fingers went completely still and the entire forest fell silent. I was the dragon he fought, and maybe he was right. And Gwyneth's arms entirely consumed by fatigue. 20 years of starvation, being hunted, and a 10-minute duel against me were just too much for his broken body. His heart simply stopped. I gave him a proper burial, not a common grave. Was he crazy? Of course. Looking at this cruel, corrupt world where the church burns children alive, Borg might have been the only sane one left. His methods were a mess and his logic was broken, but his rage was completely justified. I was just the dragon that crossed his path. Jet jobs on my estate again. Both politely declined. No matter, they are on my territory and locked inside my recruitment game. Time is on my side. Still, the mountain expedition was costly, and we lost 3 of our guards. Several were severely injured, cutting my security force in half, but the whole brought back thousands of kilograms of wild meat, enough to give 3 pounds to every resident of Skagtown. Not bad for a day that almost killed me twice. I also gained hunting experience from the beasts, alongside butchery skills transferred directly into my mind. Pretty useful. 10 pounds of meat to each hunter's family as thanks, and ordered the rest distributed before spoiling. Afterward, I took Gwyneth home. Home, the very word she chose herself. Back to Skagtown with family, to a life where she won't sleep in shacks praying and eating peas. Would figure out the details later. For now, the mountain chapter was closed, and Shasta left without saying goodbye. Went back to my ship at the dock. From the hill, I watched the merchant fleet sail north up the Bro River, crossing the rapids out of sight. Witches, merchants, the church. Those words kept spinning around in my head. They were pieces on a board I was only beginning to understand. Everyone in this world is a fool. The nobles, the farmers even more so, and the kings and church are the ultimate idiots. Those fools whom everyone else worships. With me, because the key to shattering this stupid system is right inside my head. Dive into how a single mobile game and absolute confidence are about to change this entire world. Will crush the old world to rebuild it my way. New rules, new order. Will there be blood? Absolutely. Will nobles die? Hopefully plenty. Will kings kneel? They better. Will the church survive what is coming? Not a chance. A new era is coming and I am leading it. Though some things I only learned much later. Giant eagle descended from the heavens, landing straight onto Maury's ship. No ordinary bird, it was a magical beast capable of rocking the ship, plus it spoke. Apparently, there was a witch hierarchy I had no clue about. A prophet witch who uses a magic mirror to track newly awakened witches across the entire continent. The beast-taming witch who commands giant eagles. They were hunting Gwyneth because her spiritual potential was massive, worthy of a grand witch. But get ready for the real surprise. The witches are planning an operation called Death to God. The witches' forest will no longer remain hidden. They are going to directly attack the church and whatever deities those priests worship. They believe that by gathering and training enough powerful witches, they can destroy the church's divine power. North, a witch has just awakened with a power so ridiculous that the prophet called her a living miracle. Every witch is traveling north to find her, but there is one major problem. The church felt it too. Pay close attention here, because they sent Curtin, a level 6 knight with 50 hunters, level 6 transcendent being leading a death squad just to beat the witches to the prize. Shasta boarded the giant eagle and flew north to join in on the search. So while I am busy mixing fertilizer and designing plows, the fate of witches and gods is decided in the north, and the little girl I swore to protect belongs to a race that will literally declare war on heaven. Great. Super normal. I'm sure this won't affect my planting schedule. Morning fog, breakfast time at the Origin estate. I sat at the head of the table alongside Erin Green and Gwyneth, my new official personal assistant. A fancy term meaning she follows me everywhere and eats for free. The kid was a mess, but not out of malice. Seemed like a wild child encountering civilization for the first time. Day before, Scythe's team rescued her from borrowed clothes and put her in a room. Oatmeal, jerky, and bread. Later she confessed it was the best meal of her life. Now, sitting at my table, she stared at the white bread, venison steak, roasted wild boar, bear stew, and thick soup. I know what you're thinking. She looked like she accidentally stumbled into heaven. Her tiny nose twitched, trying to sniff everything without anyone noticing, kept swallowing. With hands in her lap, her fingers twitched toward the food, but she didn't touch a thing without permission. Her inner struggle was painful to watch. Can I eat? Is this a trick? Will they hit me? She looked terrified. It looks delicious. Please eat, Gwyneth, I said. Nothing. She was completely hypnotized by the feast. Gwyneth jumped in her seat like a startled squirrel, nearly slamming her face on the table, but Green's ninja reflexes saved her, grabbing her neck like a tiny kitten. How old are you? I asked. Blinked, raising her hands and moving her fingers as if counting numbers on an invisible piano. No, 11. Doesn't even know her age. She's about 1.3 meters tall, with messy black hair, huge deer eyes, sunken cheeks, and thin arms, and in a child's costume. 2 years alone in the mountains is a miracle, or proof that her bad luck curse sometimes works in reverse. You know who I am, right? The feudal lord. Good. You're my assistant. Keep close to me. You eat this. Go on. She sat trying to process it, ignoring the utensils entirely. Her hand shot out like a cobra, snatched a piece of white bread and shoved it right in. Her cheeks puffed out completely, looked exactly like a squirrel that had just raided an entire bakery, and slid over a glass of milk. Good man. She chewed quickly but carefully, grinding every bite completely down before swallowing. She learned to eat like it was her last meal, because usually it was. Scythe suddenly appeared beside me, horrified by her manners. I wanted to intervene, but I stopped him. Trust me, it was better to let her eat. Welcome back. Let us dive into this emotional story. We'll teach her to use a fork when she is not starving. After breakfast, we rode to Skagtown, and the composting was going perfectly. 30 tons of fertilizer accumulated. It is incredible what you can achieve by mobilizing an entire town, paying them with lunches and wheat vouchers. Moore was waiting for me at the entrance, followed closely by 2 completely terrified people. My lord, these are Hard and Seema Novak, the parents of Gwyneth. The moment Hard saw his daughter, he fell straight to his knees. Noble lord, please. Seema is not my daughter. Do not burn us alive. Gwyneth's face lit up when she saw them, but instantly went dark. What absolute heartbreak. Her own father despised her to her face right while she stood there. Gwyneth is my assistant now, I said coldly. From this day on, when you look at her, you are looking at me. Understood. Hard survival instinct kicked in immediately. If the Lord claimed the witch, the church would not dare touch his family. His face shifted from absolute panic to submissive gratitude so quickly it almost made me dizzy. And the mother Seema spoke up. My lord, a few nights ago a witch came to our house, but Hard desperately yanked her arm. Shut up, woman. Emma insisted and told me all about the late-night visit from Shasta. Knew, of course. I am aware. Keep this quiet and get back to work. Praise the Lord. Hard let out a shout, grabbed his wife, and fled in a rush. As they left, Sema looked back at Gwyneth with a very complex expression. Guilt, love, fear, and relief mixed together on the face of a mother unable to speak before the man who owned everything. Gwyneth watched her mother walk away with a gaze full of maturity. Far too sad for an 11-year-old girl. It is nothing, I said. Some things are not mine to fix. Not yet. But I mentally added reuniting this family without them being burned alive to my to-do list, right between manufacturing heavy plows and overthrowing the world order. Just a typical Tuesday for me. Look closely now, because Gwyneth's power is just as hilarious as it is terrifying. Completely radiates bad luck without even realizing it. Cannot control it. Cannot even know which disasters are her fault and which are just typical medieval misery. After her powers awakened, her family suffered everything. Broken bones, structural collapses, and livestock suddenly going wild. Seemed like some absurd comedy, but nobody was laughing. Do I really blame her parents for kicking her out? Honestly, no. A poor family cannot survive that much bad luck. A broken leg means nobody can farm. No crops means no food, and no food means they die. They were sinking, and she was the anchor. It is horrible, but I get it. I have a theory. It is not just bad luck, she has fortune too. How else did she survive 2 years alone in monster-infested mountains? Dead rabbits, edible mushrooms, and safe wild berries. No predator ever discovered her shelter. That is not survival, it is a complete statistical impossibility. The girl is a literal coin toss. Heads, your house collapses. Rabbit practically commits suicide right onto your dinner plate. The transcendent being, I can handle her bad luck. Physics still apply, she will not make a meteor crash onto my head. The worst would be broken legs or structural failures. And even that requires the exact right conditions. My estate will not blow up just because a 12-year-old girl glares at it. Besides, I noticed something curious in the mountains. Just as Shasta and I were about to fight, a pack of wolves appeared out of nowhere and interrupted us. Coincidence? Did her power unconsciously prevent a bloodbath? There is no proof, but I suspect it. If everything falls apart over one girl's bad vibes, then I deserve to lose. Stick with me, because the best part of the day is next. The heavy plows were finally ready. Visited Lax's forge, where 8 or 9 men were hammering like crazy. So packed, they were basically forging iron, while sharing a group hug upon finishing the heavy plows. They were moving slowly, but gaining speed. I asked Lax to step up the production pace. He looked like he had not slept in 3 days, because he actually had not, but he nodded, ready for another sleepless night. I ordered extra meat for them, 1 pound of wild boar per meal. Shasta hunted that boar, so we might as well put it to good use. I loaded the 4 plows, took 6 oxen, and set out to find the perfect farmland. I rode ahead, surveying the entire landscape. Aaron and Green drove the wagons right behind me. Gwyneth sat right by the plows, bouncing like a little bundle of misfortune and luck. Green whispered to Aaron, asking if he wanted to make a bet, and said he bet they would indeed plow. Green complained that it ruined the wager, so Aaron called it off. Green just sighed. Found the perfect spot, a vast flat area just north of Skagtown. It was untouched land, leveled and rock-free. What we will witness in the next chapter will leave us completely speechless. This man rebuilds his life from scratch. I got off my horse, examining the dark, fertile soil. Perfect. I yoked the oxen, hooked up the heavy plow, and drove it deep into the soil. Result was beautiful. The blades sliced through wet clay like butter. Deep furrows of dark earth tore open, destroying roots and shattering the packed ground. What a light plow could never achieve, this monster did with absolute ease. I plowed about 100 meters to test it, then looked at my knights. You two plow 1 kilometer east, then 1.3 north. Green pointed to himself in disbelief. You, a powerful combat knight holding a plow like a common farmer. Welcome to your new life. Knights will judge me, he protested. What other knights? We are in the most isolated, forgotten basin in the entire kingdom. Who is going to see you? The squirrels wanted to give us each a plow, but remembered these two know nothing about farming. So I had them share 1 plow while I handled the other. Aaron accepted his fate with dignified silence, while Green complained with his usual dramatic flair. Meanwhile, Gwyneth watched us from the wagon, observing 3 fully armored warriors bickering over plain dirt. Maybe she wondered if civilization beat eating wild mushrooms alone in the mountains. Yes, because mushrooms do not come with beef stew. No lunch until you finish, I warned. Being instantly withered like a delicate flower under the scorching desert sun. Pay attention here, because threatening his food magically turned him into the most obedient knight in history, he grumbled while readying the oxen. The lords feed their men white bread and delicious roasted meats. Other knights win glory on the battlefield. Yet here I am tilling land like a peasant with an expensive sword. On the other hand, Aaron just started working without a single complaint. His tolerance for suffering is almost spiritual. Gwyneth watched us with shining eyes from the ox cart. Lord, what should I do? Completely ready to help out. This girl grew up in the wilderness and only knows hard labor. Genuinely excited to get a task. Just sit tight right there. Do not wander off. Is skin and bones. If I gave her a plow, she would snap in half in a second. Bringing her along was basically like taking a pet out for some fresh air. A rather strange pet, though. Oh! She sat in the cart, swinging her head side to side like any bored kid from any era, looking around and picking at the wood. Childish behavior truly transcends all eras. I know what you are thinking, but seeing those beautiful, deep furrows open up was an absolute revelation to me. Blades sliced through wet clay with astonishing ease, turning over 15 centimeters of soil that had never been touched before. The old plows barely scraped the surface. This monster tore the ground open, unearthing rich, incredibly fertile black soil. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, even though it took me over an hour to plow just 1.3 kilometers. Heavy plows are slow, but it is worth it. Green and Aaron finished sooner since they took turns doing the labor, and Aaron, true to his style, meticulously cleared away every stone and root along the path as they went. From above, we drew a perfect rectangle of 1 kilometer by 1.3, 2,000 acres fully prepared. When we met at the crossroads, Gwyneth gave me that universal look that screams she is absolutely starving, wide eyes, leaning forward, trying to hide sheer desperation. To eat. I snapped my fingers and we headed back. After lunch, Scythe cornered me with paperwork, asking me to immediately audit the financial records of Skagtown. I grabbed the rough leather ledgers and felt an overwhelming urge to burn them. Those records were an absolute disaster, complete joke. Moore ran this place like his own personal piggy bank, completely unaccountable to anyone. He logged transactions only when he felt like it. Duke's tax collector visited once a year, took a flat fee, and never audited a thing. Moore did not even know how many citizens lived here. His entire financial strategy boiled down to this: keep them from starving, make them have lots of kids, farm more land, sell the surplus, and pocket the difference. Whenever the peasants starved, he lent them grain at astronomical interest rates. I found an actual record of it. Novak family loan, 100 pounds of rye. They paid 150 and still owe 100. That is her family. People so poor that a broken bone would ruin them. Yet Moore ran a ruthless loan sharking scheme right under their noses. On top of that, noble lords in this world wield almost unlimited power over their subjects, which I find absolutely sickening, including the infamous right of the first night, a real law that some nobles actually dare to enforce. Come along with me to watch this corrupt bastard fall. And Moore, who arrived trembling and sweating as usual, grabbed Scythe's fine quill and slashed a giant letter X across every single page of those fake records. You and I are about to watch him wipe out debts like he is playing with cheat codes. Everything is cancelled. And just stood. Moore nodded, absolutely terrified. He knew better than to argue, especially since I had already seized his lands. How would the farmers pay if they no longer control their fields? But of course, I am no naive fool. I know they are secretly growing small patches of grain behind my back. I'm guerrilla farming. I'm fine with it. As long as they work by day, I will turn a blind eye. They still owe me 50% of their harvest anyway. Besides, you cannot hide a giant wheat field. The new financial system officially starts right now. Every transaction recorded, every expense tracked, with no more personal slush funds or predatory loans ever again. Because Moore's era of creative accounting is being audited by a modern spreadsheet genius, and in a nearby carriage, Gwyneth devoured her third bun of the day, completely unaware that I had just wiped out her family's crushing debt. You are welcome, kid. Consider it a bonus for my future 6-star apostle. Moore nodded so intensely I thought his head would pop off, fully expected me to explode over those terrible financial records. Instead, I simply crossed it all out. Anticlimactic for him, liberating for me. We'll run the finances of Skagtown now. Scythe sighed, the heavy sigh of someone carrying terrible news. Lord, we will go bankrupt this winter. And he showed me the numbers. Not receive cash, but an annual payment in grain. 50 pounds of wheat, 140 of mixed grain, and 50% tax exemption. Being a guard is a sweet gig here. You need connections just to get in. And the 16 administrators have it even better. 5 silver coins, 120 pounds of wheat, 50 of mixed grain, 30 of meat, and total tax exemption. Men live like absolute royalty compared to the average farmers. They are the only ones allowed to own slaves. The entire annual payroll is 8 gold coins, plus tons of grain and meat. And that is not even counting what I owe Aaron, Green, and Scythe. With them, the bill triples. Here is the crisis. Before my arrival, Skagtown was stable. Moore sold the excess grain and bought livestock. Then I showed up and completely shattered the local production system, confiscated the lands, halted the crops, and ordered everyone to collect manure and build plows. With their reserves, the farmers will survive until summer. They will forage for wild berries and vegetables. Come winter, people will starve. and we will have no money to pay anyone because we are selling absolutely nothing. The unspoken message was clear. Stop playing around and let them plant before we all die. But my reaction, wait, is that all? Now I know exactly what you are thinking. Scythe stared like I was crazy when my instinct was to squeeze more for cash. The man has embezzled for years, a total piggy bank. Slaughter the pig when I already own the entire farm. He owns is already mine. Incredibly obedient and highly useful. Keep the pig fed and it produces more bacon. That is when I noticed something very interesting on the administrator's payroll. Why are their salaries so ridiculously high? Moore immediately broke into a cold sweat, stuttering and dodging my gaze. They are your relatives, right? I asked coldly. Brothers, cousins, uncles. He was sweating buckets. Teen administrators from his own family. Moore had literally turned the entire administration of Skagtown into a cozy family business. Everyone enjoying massive salaries, great perks, and zero responsibilities. Nepotism running wild while nobody was watching. Was I worried about betrayal? Not at all. My orders were still being carried out to the exact letter. If they failed, I would just remind them what combat nights are for. I firmly believe eliminating people solves any organizational issue. Not a very gentle philosophy, but it works. Alright, new pay structure. 1 silver coin annually, 100 pounds of wheat, 300 of mixed grain, 0 meat, and no taxes. A cut of nearly 70%. Brutal. Any objections? I smiled warmly at Moore. The entire desperate inner monologue was written all over his face. Not cut, but my 17 uncles and cousins will riot. Anyone has complaints, tell them to speak with me directly. Your will is my law, Lord Roman. Obviously, nobody was actually going to complain to my face. Complaining to a lord who casually talks of execution is like arguing with an active volcano. That family will survive on their savings. We must cut out meat. Welcome to austerity, parasites. Let us shift to what you and I actually care about. How are the families of the gods who died yesterday doing? Moore began to report. Come along with me. Those families received 5 silver coins, 40 pounds of meat, and 80 of wheat. The seriously injured got 2 silver coins, 15 pounds of meat, and 40 of wheat. And those with minor injuries received 10 to 50 pounds of wheat, all hand-delivered by Aaron and Green. Having 2 fully armored knights show up at your doorstep with compensation makes a way bigger impact than some clerk with a list. The payout was so incredibly generous that the wounded guards actually felt jealous of the ones who had died. And the benefits of dying outshine being alive. You know the plan is working. Of course, it all came from my own pockets that were shrinking at a terrifying rate. Still, I wanted to take the remaining guards and start their military training. Their performance on the mountain was absolutely shameful, but I could not afford to just get rid of them. They act as police, supervisors, and watchmen. If I train them, all work stops because no one is keeping an eye on the peasants. Medieval management issues. I cannot train my army because my army also happens to be my entire administrative team. Somewhere out there, a business professor is crying and does not know why. You must never overestimate the work ethic of villagers. Free food does not motivate them, it just fills their bellies. Firm hand is still needed, so I ordered Aaron to train them 3 hours daily. He frowned. Mention here, after watching those guards collapse like wet noodles against a bear and some wolves, he knew they had to improve. He agreed. Green was not jealous about not being chosen to teach. Education takes patience, and he has the patience of a hyperactive hummingbird. Next, I dropped a massive bombshell on Moore. Guards are getting paid monthly. 10 pounds of wheat, 10 of mixed grains, and 2 of meat. Moore blinked in disbelief. A salary, that was tiny. And his brain caught up. Monthly. In this world, guards are basically just forced conscripts, get annual wheat and tax exemptions, but monthly cash. Unheard of. Just turned the position into the most coveted job in the valley. There are conditions. My standards and you are out. Excel and you get bonuses. Also, we will integrate hunters into the guard, with Dota as captain. Moore's handkerchief was soaked in sweat by the time I finished. He rushed out to announce everything. Suddenly, Scythe materialized behind me like a highly disappointed ghost. Still have not solved our winter bankruptcy, my lord. You cut manager's pay but raise the guard's salary. The net savings are practically zero. And he's right. Real expense is my main team. since Aaron and Green charge in gold. Add the salaries and craftsman fees, and my budget is completely on fire, but I will fix it before spring ends. I know what you're thinking, and so did he, but Scythe held back and chose not to argue. Buried under decades of obsession with royal etiquette, actually has some faith in me, watched me grow up, and knows I am not normal. And he said, "At least button your shirt properly. Your collar is crooked. Mud on your pants. This is undignified." And he proceeded to fix my clothes as if I were a 5-year-old child, straightening, buttoning, and dusting off the dirt, complaining the entire time. Just stood still and took it, because facing Scythe's strict dress code is honestly worse than fighting hungry wolves. Once he left, I grabbed the heavy plow from the forge, gathered 50 experienced farmers with their supervisor, and headed to the 2,000-acre field. It was time to prove it. Hitched the oxen, grabbed the handles, and drove the heavy plow straight into the earth. The blades bit down deep, tossing rich black soil to both sides like powerful waves in the open ocean. Rocks, thick roots, and packed clay. The plow ripped through everything in its path, leaving the farmers completely stunned. The Lord's plow is massive. You do not even have to stand on it, and it just pulled out a rock the size of my head, dragged up a root thick as my arm in black dirt. The men were literally jumping with pure excitement. They had spent their entire lives using plows so light and flimsy that they could barely scratch the surface of the ground. They had to stand on the plow and jump just to force it down. The result: shallow cuts and mediocre harvest. Now they were watching the soil turn over at a depth they had never witnessed in their entire lives. They did not need any lectures on soil science or crop yields. They were seeing it with their own eyes. Dark, nutrient-rich soil, hidden since before their grandfathers were born, was finally ready for planting. And then the whispers started. "Wait, the Lord actually knows how to plow. His technique is way better than mine. Who is the real farmer?" Heard that and almost laughed. Trust me, this is where I realized these farmers were at the end of their rope. Spending 3 days collecting manure instead of planting crops had driven them to the absolute brink of despair. They did not understand composting or seed selection, only knew the season was slipping away, and their new Lord was not letting them farm. Let's dive in and see how this young lord stops a massive rebellion with nothing but a heavy plow. The collective relief in the air was thick. Shoulders dropped, tense fists relaxed, and hope finally returned to their worried faces. Our Lord is not crazy. He actually has a plan. That heavy plow tears through the soil like nothing we have ever seen. Maybe we won't starve after all. Right away, I assigned 50 farmers to plow 2,000 acres of land. Not many plows for 50 people, but the real work is not plowing. It is clearing the rising debris. Rocks, roots, stumps, and dry grass. This morning, I hit a buried log that took 15 minutes of swearing to pull out, and the broken roots were still stuck down there. 2,000 acres of pure, unadulterated torture. Men are going to earn every single bite of their food. First time since I arrived, the mood changed completely. Their raw fear was turning into simple curiosity. Bitter resentment shifted into cautious hope. Still think I am crazy, but at least they see me as competent now. That is already huge progress. It was once a forest. Now pay attention here, because every few meters you hit buried stumps that act just like wooden landmines. Nobody cleared them before because they lacked tools and thought land was endless. Single root or rock ruined my high-quality soil. Everything goes. 700 workers available after leaving enough people to keep Skag Village running. Right now, most of them are shoveling manure for 3 more days. Every single free hand will be sent to plow these 2,000 acres until the land begs for mercy. Stats for this heavy plow show it covers half a meter per pass, and it only needs 1 deep run. 2 oxen can plow 6 acres a day if they move in a straight line, which is why I chose this flat ground. Turning this massive plow is like a 17-point turn. Total nightmare. Needs 7 more days to finish the 40 plows, so we will use each plow the second it is forged. It will take 13 days to deep plow the whole area. By then, the fertilizer will be fermented and ready. Plow, plant, fertilize. It is a race against time, and spring waits for nobody. Now there is something I have not told a soul. This year, Skag Village will only farm 2,000 of their usual 10,000 acres. I know what you think. Once the farmers find out, they will want to rebel. To them, 2,000 acres for 2,000 people means starvation. They know nothing about deep plowing, fertilizers, or selecting seeds. To them, less land just means starving to death. truth. Will I explain the science behind my plan? Obviously not. Will I negotiate with them? Will I crush a rebellion if it happens? Absolutely. Even if 100 farmers die, the other 1,700 will fall in line, and my agricultural revolution goes on. It's cruel, but I did not reincarnate in this medieval hell to win a popularity contest. It is absolute. End of story. But here is the exciting part. After planting, 4/5 of our workers will be completely free. 4/5. For generations, every single person in this basin has been chained to the soil since birth, labor on awful land just for miserable harvest. First disguised as some peaceful traditional lifestyle, I am breaking that curse. This free labor will build roads, mine minerals, and turn this basin into an empire. First things first, though. Yesterday, my system showed me rich iron and stone deposits hidden up in the mountains. I cannot mine them yet without the proper infrastructure. Mapping my whole territory would take a year of constant walking, which is not a priority right now. What I can do is level up my gathering skill. And how do we do that? By chopping trees. There is a massive forest north of Origin Estate I have been watching. It is just wasting fertile land and valuable wood. Today it falls. First I checked on the kids. Hans and German were teaching reading and math to 300 students outdoors. They were not star students, but I did not expect geniuses. The goal is just to make them literate. Grabbed an axe from the warehouse and headed straight into that thick forest all alone. Suddenly I heard tiny footsteps behind me. Beneath was following me like a little duckling. Why are you coming along? She stopped, terrified. You said I was your helper. Wanted to send her to class, but her bad luck aura would probably cause fatal accidents near my tutors. Falling blackboard, a tripping student, and suddenly my expensive tutors are filing for workers' comp. Fine. Keep walking. Her face lit up with the biggest smile yet. Ran toward me on tiptoe like a happy little skeleton, with a girl who is not afraid of her bad luck. You think? Stick with me to see how this girl's terrifying powers became a complete nightmare for her family, making everyone suffer. The feudal lord represents absolute and unquestionable power. Hiding behind that power is like finding shelter behind a mountain in a storm. Nothing can touch you. Nothing can hurt you. The mountain does not care about your tiny curse, and I am her mountain. And if her aura of doom tries anything weird while I chop trees, well, I am a transcendent with an axe and serious anger issues. Physics still applies. The worst that can happen is a branch falling on my head, and my skull is incredibly hard. Wood-cursed girl. Dad needs to farm some gathering experience. North of my land, past the 10 hectares of garden I already planted, lies a forest that has annoyed me since day one. Today it pays for its insolence. I walked closer to size up my enemy. Mostly red pines with some elms and ashes. Thick, arrogant trees, surrounded by thorny bushes and grass so tangled nobody could pass. This forest actually thought it was safe. Dead wrong. Spent the first 30 minutes carving a path. Dry bushes, weeds, and thick overgrowth. Beneath followed me like a one-girl cleanup crew, neatly piling up everything I chopped down. Good girl, highly useful. Now pay attention here. Earning 10 experience points just for clearing bushes shows how fun this skill is going to be to farm. Then I discovered something beautiful under the pines. 10-centimeter layer of decomposed needles, pure natural compost, ready to use fertilizer. Years of decayed pine needles transformed into perfect soil packed with nutrients. It was not enough for massive fields, but it was plenty for my 10-hectare garden right next door. Free fertilizer with zero transport costs. Just gather and spread. This annoying forest became a resource goldmine in 5 minutes. I like it a bit more now. I'm still going to destroy it. First target a 15-meter pine with an 80-centimeter trunk, a true giant. I scraped off the bark to expose the white wood underneath, and then I unleashed my technique. Final cut downward, 4 centimeters deep, using gravity and momentum, no brute force needed. Pull out and repeat. After a few diagonal strikes, I switched to horizontal cuts to carve a wedge, widening the V-shaped notch. Rhythm is everything. I plan to chop all afternoon. Not get tired early like a rookie woodcutter having an existential crisis. 10 minutes. Standard 30-centimeter notch. Then I made another notch behind, and a third on the side. Splinters flew everywhere, with massive chunks bouncing 3 meters away. Gwyneth backed away. Had been watching me look completely hypnotized. as if the rhythm of the axe striking wood relaxed her. She snapped out of her trance and ran away. 5 more swings and crack, and started falling slowly and majestically right toward me, purposefully cut the opposite notch higher up so it would fall in the opposite direction. Physics dictated it would fall the other way, but it did not account for the cursed girl 20 meters away, sending mixed luck straight to where the pine was falling. Honestly, you and I both know the universe absolutely loves messing with Roman. Calmly stepped aside. 15-meter pine crashed exactly where I stood. If I were just a simple, slow farmer, I'd cake right now. But I am a transcendent with great reflexes and endless patience for cosmic irony. 2 gathering experience points per tree. Not bad at all.
Or per tree is a pretty decent speed.
Ripped off the branches, cleaned the log, and threw the debris onto the pile. Gwyneth was still building. Then Aaron showed up, asking how to train the guards. It was very clear we must start with the absolute basics. Standing at attention, lining up, turning on command, counting and marching. We need a real army, not neighbors armed with sharpened sticks. He nodded. He had heard me talk about this since we were kids. Grand dream of creating an unstoppable army. In the Duke's lands, there was never any room for my ambitions, but here I have a completely blank canvas. I raised their pay and food, so push them hard with no excuses. Once spring passes, I will recruit farmers too. Your current guards will be the future officers. Use green if you need help. And walked off with firm, determined steps. That man was born for this job, even if he did not know it yet. I was about to chop when I heard a sweet voice. My lord, this is for you. Gwyneth was showing me her tiny hands completely filled with hazelnuts. I had found them in the brush, last year's crop perfectly preserved. No mold, no bugs, and no moisture damage. Definitely stole some squirrels' life savings. And open with the axe and popped it into my mouth. They were delicious. I ate them all. Tell me, would you join us on this crazy adventure? Trust me, this moment is going to break your heart as she looks down, pulling the hem of her shirt. She survived on wild nuts and berries, yet here she was, offering me the only food she had left to give, her only form of currency. Every single one without saying a word. Her face lit up like sunshine. Grabbed my axe and went back to chopping trees. Gotta level up my gathering and pretend that emotional moment never happened. Yesterday brought 5 trees worth of gathering experience. Massive ones and 2 smaller trunks. Some felt like limp noodles, but at least my gathering stats were climbing nicely. 20 points down, 80 more to reach level 2. More days of logging and I will unlock mining and masonry. Priorities first. Gwyneth just sat on a log, staring at me chop wood like it was the most spectacular show on earth, putting her chin in her hands, completely captivated. Remember, this kid spent 2 whole years alone in the wild with 0 entertainment, though honestly, watching some guy swing a sharp blade at wood must feel like a blockbusting masterpiece to her. Every single time a tree crashed down, she would rush over with a towel like a corner man in a boxing match. Dinner last night, Scythe warned me the farmers were getting incredibly restless. They wanted land. They would even pay 60% taxes instead of 50 just to farm their own way. I chewed my steak and asked why I should care. They claim it violates the lease agreement, my lord, which it does. Let them go complain to the Black Iron King. Now pay attention here, because playing it safe is way too boring for him. I'm not here to follow rules, not travel to the edge of the world to play it safe. I am flipping the entire board. There's no turning back. Really should have seen this morning coming. I was mid-swing on my 8th tree when a servant bolted from the manor in absolute panic, shouting about major trouble. Jogged back to the estate and saw it instantly. Hundreds of angry farmers had marched up and formed a massive mob. My guards formed a wall of spears to hold them back. Aaron and Green stood in full armor, warning them to back off. There was blood on the ground. Someone had already done something incredibly stupid. Moore and his overseers were hiding behind whatever they could find, totally useless. But Scythe, our strict old butler, Scythe, obsessed with proper etiquette, stood right in front of the mob with his back straight, lecturing them on manners like a schoolteacher. Alone, unarmed, and vastly outnumbered. An absolute magnificent madman. I know what you are thinking. This man deserves a massive raise. Empty pockets say otherwise. As I approached, the mob surged. Aaron stepped forward, raising his heavy shield like a solid wall against the rushing tide, shoving Scythe behind him. What is going on here? I roared. Total silence fell as everyone turned. At the front stood elderly, trembling farmers, and spoke up, begging for land. The crowd roared in anger behind him. Land allocated for farming is just too small. We need more. So they had already done the math. They stared at my 2,000-acre plot and ran the old-school math. To them, it simply was not enough. To these people, 2,000 acres for 2,000 citizens meant starvation. They do not understand modern deep plowing. They know nothing of fertilizers or crop selection, or that one optimized acre can outproduce 5 of their useless plots. All they see is tiny fields. To them meant dead children. They let that panic simmer for a day before exploding. Old man spoke humbly but with iron resolve. We need land to survive. Raise our taxes to 60% if you must. We will pay it gladly. I ignored him completely. You finish your work today? How much fertilizer did you manage to stack? How many acres did you plow? Like the heavy plow from the forge? The elder shook his head, begging for mercy. No hope of survival. Not greedy rebels. They were just utterly, desperately terrified. Parents looking at their children and seeing starvation in the coming winter. No amount of lectures can fix that. Not back down either. The moment I surrender that land, my entire plan crumbles into dust. My workforce would scatter across 10,000 unproductive acres. No one would work the optimized fields or build infrastructure. The mines would sit empty, and my 10 days of grueling effort would mean absolutely nothing. Staring at their desperate faces, I spoke. Tell me what it will take to make you obey me. Not my most diplomatic moment, but I never promised diplomacy. I promised real results. You and I have to wonder if they will even survive to see them. I scanned the crowd, single head lowered, but not one person backed away. They stood like stubborn, immovable stones. Look closely, because you and I are about to witness a brutal decision. The old farmer spoke up, voice cracking. Lord, you took everything. We broke every single agreement, and we do not know how to survive anymore. You must understand. Farmers cannot exist without their land, just like you and your knights cannot live without white bread. I answered him. We'll no longer pay taxes. We'll never starve again. I have more than enough ways to feed every single one of you. Just obey me. That is all I am asking right now. He shook his head. Not believe that, my lord. How will 2,000 acres feed us? What if I swear it? Promise. This year, the next, forever, until my very last day as your lord, nobody will starve. But even so, he does not believe me. Old man thought about it for a long, tense moment. No, he is questioning me, drawing himself. Get out of here. I will forgive your disrespect, not leave. Instead, he dropped the most devastating logical argument I had ever heard. We know what a single acre produces. We know what 2,000 acres produce. Your heavy plows are incredible, but the results are unknown. They do not perform divine miracles. We trust our own hands more. We can feed both you and ourselves if given the chance. You have been kind, giving us porridge and working alongside us. You plow better than any of us. Never seen a lord like you. It has its limit. In the end, we will eat bark and dirt. And when the food runs out, you can leave these lands. What about us? Now pay attention here, because this is where it gets interesting. Feeding 2,000 mouths with unseen methods is sheer madness. It was promising results that had never existed in their world. I was asking them to gamble their children's lives on my word. So do you refuse to obey? I only want land, my lord. You cannot lock us in those 2,000 acres. Even if you tell us it is enough, it is like saying we will never have to worry about food again. I cannot even imagine such a thing. Your promise is too incredible to believe, he whispered. Then my opponent stepped forward. Old farmer hesitated for a second and stepped forward. The others followed him one by one. 13 people in total. The rest stood frozen. They watched and prayed that I would back down. His great sword, in steel and copper, over 4 kilograms, meant for 2 hands. I swung it with just one, the oldest of Skagtown. 40 or 50 years old, ancient from medieval times. They had spent their entire lives reading the earth and sky. They knew with absolute certainty, from long experience, that what I was trying was impossible. And as long as they lived, constantly organize resistance, drag others into rebellion, and waste precious time that I simply did not have. I know what you are thinking, and saw his own end, trembled but straightened his back, hunched from decades of labor, ran him through, then the next and the next. None of them fought back. They fell like old oxen. One last groan, then silence. 13 lifeless bodies on the grass. A young, dark-skinned farmer pushed through the crowd and fell to his knees beside the first body, weeping inconsolably, clinging to the cooling body of the old man. What is your name? Lord, he was my father, Matthew Borrow, apostle of a star, drawn his card days ago from the gacha roulette. never knowing his face. Now I finally know. He had tried to talk his father out of doing this, but the old man was certain someone had to stand up. Even if only the edge of a blade awaited them, someone had to make the Lord listen. He succeeded, costing him everything. Borrow. Appoint you agricultural administrator. Work with more people to cultivate this land, and you will see what your father never dared to imagine. I turned to the frozen, waiting crowd. Obey me. Support me. Serve me. Give me your simple, ordinary lives, and I will protect you forever. This year or any other until my final day here, I let a single soul starve. I free this sword. Plunge tip first into the dirt, the blade still bloodied, sinking into the grass all the way to the hilt. Then draw this sword and pierce my chest with it. Absolute silence. The wind rustled the grass. A bird sang far away. I turned around and walked away. Not the part where I crack a joke. There's nothing funny here. 13 people died because their world could not conceive the future I am building. They're not fools for being afraid. They were not villains. The old man was braver than most knights. Stood his ground knowing the exact cost. And I killed him anyway, because if I hesitated or yielded even an inch, the entire plan would have collapsed. Fields would not be sown. The revolution would die. Next winter, there would not be 13 dead, but thousands. That is what I tell myself. I will keep repeating. The sword remains driven right where I left it, and in the end, you and I will remember that promise as we watch it rust in the ground. Because you and I are diving into a high-stakes survival plan. Lose those 2,000 acres and my head rolls. I was ready to execute 100 rebels. That was my worst-case scenario. But in the end, I only needed 13. Let me break down why this was not the apocalypse everyone expected. Imagine someone invents a miracle fertilizer and tells a modern country to destroy 80% of their crop. Trust me, it boosts growth 5 times over. Nobody would believe it. The public protests would be volcanic. Apply that to a town of 2,000 people, where the miracle is manure and heavy plows. Same reaction, just fewer crowds. This is the math of rebellion they never teach you. Everyone opposed it. 100% disagreement. But there are levels to this. Level 1, those who disagree, but suck it up. More than half of them. Level 2, those who strongly oppose but fear protesting. Level 3, those who protest but fear death. And then there is level 4, those willing to die for their ideals. Only 13 actually fit. Out of nearly 2,000 people. Never pushed them to the edge. Their pantries still had food. Their bellies had free lunch. Nobody was starving today. They just feared freezing and starving when winter came. Now pay attention here, because only empty stomachs start revolutions. So what happened next? Everyone went back to work. Not out of love for me, but because the alternative was worse. Deep down they are practical. Those 2,000 acres are now their only hope for a harvest this year. They care about those fields way more than I do. They will farm like their lives depend on it, because they actually do. And if I am wrong, the sword remains driven in the ground, rusting in the rain, waiting for someone to claim it and collect on my promise. Everything went back to normal. Returned to chopping trees. Day 4 of my lumberjack career, I had cleared a huge area, an hour per tree. My technique was becoming flawless. Experience points kept climbing. Then Scythe brought me a visitor, a traveling merchant named Darkin. Skinny guy, early 30s, handlebar mustache, and a coin pouch on his belt. He arrived in Skagtown expecting routine business, only to find the new lord confiscated everything, restricted farming, and executed rebels. The man was terrified and tried to flee, but my guards caught him. You and I know how this goes. So I put on my friendliest face. You are a salt merchant, and not just that. I also bring wool, wine, medicine, candles, cheese, and butter. Poor guy listed his inventory in a panic, mentally calculating his losses if I decided to seize everything right then and there, bill to the Merchant Guild and sue me in the royal court. With Caskell as my last name, that lawsuit would be buried faster than the tree stumps I keep digging up. How much salt do you have? Around 500 pounds. It costs 1 copper coin per pound, but goes up north for 2 or 3. Salt economics are crazy. You buy 100 pounds for 2 silver coins and sell them for 1 gold coin. Profit margin is insane. but supply is limited. Big players control everything, leaving guys like Darkin with only crumbs. Not need his salt today, just info. Real question, what is the price of slaves? He blinked in surprise. Common ones start at 1 silver. Strong or skilled ones go for 2 to 5 silver coins. Flawed ones are 8 coppers or less. How many can you bring? Maybe 20. We'll give you 20 gold. How many for that? His back straightened so fast it almost popped.
At least 120.
20 gold is a fortune. Porting them to this remote basin adds costs, raising the price per slave to 1.5 silver, but it is still an incredible deal. His eyes were calculating at high speed. Minimum time frame 1 month. With no recent wars on the Black Iron continent, there are not many slaves available locally. He would have to look in other lands. Gave him 10 gold coins up front, 10 upon arrival, and then sweetened the deal. His trade tax rate in Skagtown would be 5%, he gasped. Many nobles charge 10 or 16%. Others charge 33% for salt. Merchants basically work for free in those territories, just 5% salt included. Your generous policies will echo across the entire Bro River, he stammered excitedly. Lower taxes attract merchants. They bring goods. Goods generate an economy, and a strong economy yields power. It is not complicated. The nobles on this continent are just too greedy and stupid to understand that. Darkin practically skipped away to collect his advance payment. Now my shopping list includes 50 oxen, 100 Mori draft horses, 120 slaves from Darkin, 40 heavy plows, 2,000 acres to plow, and tons of manure, 100 kids to educate, and this lord chopping trees while a cursed girl eats hazelnuts. What a wild story you and I just witnessed. Let's watch how this empire grows from brutal axe strikes